Good evening. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor has called the first budget hearing to order. Mayor Roscoe,
Present.
Councilmember Kaplan,
Here.
Councilmember Bracken.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember London is not with us this evening. Vice Mayor Sardinas.
Here.
Councilmember Stoner.
Here.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is brief comments.
Yes, I'd like to make a couple of comments. Today we had the commemoration of the 9/11. Early this morning, we lowered the flag. It's a great event. I asked people to participate. Next year is going to be the 25th anniversary, so it's going to be a big highlight. And then we also had during lunch, Terry put together a movie about our participation in 9/11. 5 of our firefighters went to the rubble to help out there, and that's one of the great things that we can say that we've been a part of. So we celebrated that. Wanted to also say our colleague Ed London is not feeling well, so he won't be here with us. We send our best regards. And finally, the situation with Charlie Kirk that has been in the news. We all need to be mindful of keeping our passions under control. It's important that we have debate, but it's important that we respect and be civil with our neighbors. So please also keep that and his family in your prayers tonight. With that, Madam Clerk, let's go to the special presentations. We have our great representative, Vicki Lopez, here, and she's going to give us a wind-up and focus of what happened in Tallahassee and how it affected us. And our other good friend, Senator Alexis Calatayud, could not be here, so we're going to take Ms. Lopez, and then we do need to do something else after that before we open it up. Rep. Lopez, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and thank you for all the work you do for us in Tallahassee. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very thrilled to be here with you, the Vice Mayor, and members of the council. I do want to let you know that I have my staff with me. I have an announcement. Alessandro Marcassani, who you have been working with for 3 years, is leaving me tomorrow. He's taken on a wonderful position as the legislative director for Palm Beach County, but in his stead, I want to introduce you to my new legislative and district aide. Ruben Rodriguez is with me, and he will be stepping right into the shoes, big ones that they are. But I have lots of confidence that he will be as serving as was Ale. So this legislative session was rather different. We extended session for 45 days, and so we did not end session until June 16th when we finally had a balanced budget. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the process, if you will. There were several major issues, obviously, that we had to address this year, and specifically, there was obviously one in particular that impacted the Key in a very big way. So, as you know, I have 62 condo associations on the Key, and so the condos were a very large point of discussion. First, during the special session, when the governor wanted us to go into special session, the House and the Senate felt that we shouldn't do that we should actually take our time to ensure that we would have a very thought out and thoughtful bill. And certainly 200 pages later, we have a bill. I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of those items because you have been hearing obviously from your constituents, and our shared constituents have obviously been very vocal about needing some relief. And so I wanted to let you know, first of all, the deadline for the structural integrity reserve studies was extended by a year. So now all of those SIRs, as they're known, are due on December 31st of 2025. It gave most condominiums who had not completed them a little bit more of a runway. And I think that that was certainly necessary because had they not completed them by December 31st of 2024, they would be in non-compliance with the law, and they would have had an issue with the condo owners who might have been able to charge them with not having done their fiduciary responsibility. So that gave everyone a little bit of relief. The largest piece, of course, was the notion of kind of like having to spend so much money all at once, right? So for those of you that might have remembered, we have the law says that at 30 years, you must have a milestone inspection. They're called, they're recertifications in Miami-Dade County and in Key Biscayne as well. So basically what was happening is if you'd hit that 30-year mark, you most probably would have had some expenses that were related to keeping your building structurally sound. Those were known as special assessments because you could not have budgeted for them, nor could you have even anticipated them until the inspection was done. So that's a special assessment. So some people were being hit by that, and then others were being hit with the increase in reserves. Right? So the whole notion of the structural integrity reserve study was so that you would be able to reserve funds over a 10-year period of time from the study that would actually allow the association to know what monies did they need for those, the 8 structural components that were requiring reserves that you could no longer waive. Well, that was causing a bit of a hardship. So just so that you know, the House felt very strongly that safety is our highest priority. After Surfside and the collapse of Champlain Towers, we obviously said that can never happen again. It wasn't such a problem here because we've been recertifying buildings since 1997, but for the 65 other counties, Broward and Miami-Dade have been doing it great. But for the other 65 counties, they'd never recertified a building. And because of the law, we have had buildings evacuated sometimes within 24 hours because the buildings were found to be structurally unsound. But we understand as well that we have to strike a balance. And so the balance on this bill was if in lieu of reserving, because remember that when you increase reserves, you're increasing the monthly condo fees. And so in lieu of having to put money away, now the bill allows them to meet their reserve funding requirement by taking out loans or lines of credit from the lenders with owner approval. So basically what that does, and I tell everyone, I know that sounds great, but it's either a pay now or pay later. Eventually, you're going to have to make the repairs. This gave, I think, associations a little bit more of a runway as well if they didn't have a lot of repairs to make. So you could take a credit line out. So let's assume your structural integrity reserve study says you need $30 million in reserves. You can now take a $30 million credit line out and you don't have to increase the condo fees. What will happen, however, is when you finally do have to make those repairs, you won't have the reserves, so you will have to tap your credit line, at which point you have to pay that back. But it did allow at least some options for associations that really needed it. The new law also allows them to earn interest on the reserves. So you can now, by law, consider making a prudent investment decision that carefully considers risk and return. And by that, we meant you're not going into the stock market. You're probably going to look at bonds and money markets and things like that. So, because in some cases, reserves can accumulate and you have a lot of money sitting in the bank. Also, and this was another good fix, if you are engaging in your milestone inspection currently, we don't want you to reserve because you're reserving based on a structural integrity reserve study. And if you're in the middle of repairs, you can't have the study done, correct? So we're giving people 2 years before they have to have a SIRS after their milestone inspection, because the building should, after a milestone inspection, be structurally sound. So it makes sense. It was common sense. And we've also increased one of the 8 structural components was any item above $10,000 would have to be reserved for. We increased the threshold to 25,000. So those were the major pieces of legislation. There was other that were related to operations, but I won't take a lot of time today to go through it. It was a 200-page bill. We can always provide you with a summary of that bill, just in case. And of course, your constituents, if they reach out on any of the questions, if they haven't already talked with me, they certainly are welcome. You're welcome to refer them to my office. Another thing that we did, and I guess one last thing, there are condominiums that are 3 stories. Remember, the law was focusing on condominiums that were 3 stories and above. But as you know, and we have some of them here, you can have 2 stories and a parking garage at the bottom, right? Now that has been changed so that they don't have to reserve or have a milestone inspection, because now we've changed the law to 3 habitable stories, which makes a huge difference to some of the smaller condominiums across the state, including those that are here. So that gave a lot more relief as well. We also had, as you remember, we had what was known as the My Safe Florida Condo Pilot Program that was supposed to help fortify condominiums so that they would get an insurance reduction or a discount. And we finally did some tweaks to that. We opened the portal, and within minutes, the portal closed. That's how much of a demand there was across the state, because it would allow them, if their free inspection noted that they could use the repairs for the exterior doors and windows and the roof, that they could apply for a $175,000 grant. That pilot will be completed this year, and we will get a report on the pilot, and we will determine whether we want to continue with that pilot. It may very well be, and I've said this already, maybe the pilot works for smaller buildings, right? Because $175,000 in my building in Brickell will not get you much of anything, right? It's 42 stories high. If you're going to replace all the exterior doors and windows. And we also said it has to be only applicable to condominiums where the exterior doors and windows are actually common elements. And you know why? Because in some declaration documents, the exterior doors and windows are the responsibility of the condo owner. But we can't have buildings. The whole purpose of this program is so that you can fortify the entire building, because the insurance discount or reduction in premiums does not come when part of the building has been fortified. So we made sure that we stayed true to why we were doing this program. And then one of my other bills was obviously about boat safety. And you know that that's a big issue here on the island. As you know, and you would have read about, we've had several deaths on the water. The first one began with Lucy Fernandez, followed by Ella Adler, and now just most recently 3 young boaters that were at a sailing club. So my law that's known as Lucy's Law, in honor of Lucy Fernandez, actually puts the same kind of penalties that you would have if you are drinking and driving, right? So, and this all was born out of the case that is now before the courts, and I'm certainly not opining on that case, but what we know is that we believe that there were some errors done, and some in which the law did not support. So for instance, what do you think would happen if you were pulled over by a cop and you were actually driving, and you admitted to the cop that you'd already had 2 beers? What do you think happens to you? Pretty much, I think you're out of the car, and you're now going to either take a sobriety test or something of that nature is going to happen. That has not been the case when you are drinking on a boat. And so we have increased the penalties, criminal penalties, for anyone that causes bodily harm or serious bodily harm or a death that occurs. And what we've tried to do is make it as close to the law. If you are drinking while you're on the water, it should be the same as you're drinking when you're on the road. So this was a very passion of the family that had to come and tell their story over and over and over again about losing Lucy. The worst part about this was that a child was also injured, and she is now confined to a wheelchair and attempting to try to get back her faculties. So when you see the types of deaths that are occurring, we want to make sure that we continue to focus on boat safety. I've made a commitment that I will look at the accident that happened with the barge that hit the sailboat. we obviously need to do more work, because I don't know what happened there, but it resulted in the death of 3 young girls. And so you have my promise that I will continue to move in the direction of wanting to make sure we have more, safety laws in place. And then, last but not least, we had some appropriations that we had filed for you. And before I get to the appropriations, I know that this has been a passion of mine, the micromobility devices. And for 3 years, I attempted to get into the statute that giving municipalities and counties the ability to regulate micromobility devices by age. We were finally able to do that this year, and I know you've heard plenty of that here, but it was important to us to give local governments that ability. Now, that doesn't mean that we've mandated it or done anything of the sorts. It is going to be something that all local governments will have to decide whether it fits in their for their communities. I will say this: I told the story of Megan Andrews each time I presented that part of the bill, the amendment to the bill. She was very present in all of these discussions. We kept her memory alive, and as much as she did while she was alive in community service, she also did it in her memory. She was very much a part of ensuring that no one ever dies again because of the micromobility devices. And let me just say, we've had plenty more deaths across the state, and it's problematic. Hopefully, this new bill of mine will in fact allow the governments to do what they think is right. So there were a couple of appropriations. We had $750,000 that we got into the budget for the stormwater outfall dissipator system, which would have been at our K-8 community school. It was to serve as a stormwater outfall for the community's most flood-prone neighborhood. I'm sorry to say that the governor vetoed that $750,000 appropriations. And then we had $312,500 that we secured in the budget for the police radio systems. And I find that to be so important because you need to upgrade your radios, and you had made a commitment to get on the SLURS system, which communicates with the rest of the state. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that as well. So we did not have as much luck in the appropriations, but I like to say we just keep fighting the good fight. I am looking forward to working with each and every one of you again this year on your legislative agenda and also on your appropriations. I think I will tell you that you may have heard that I am the co-chairman of the House Select Committee on Property Taxes. And so I am active in leading the charge on property tax reform. How that will look, I don't know. The committee will meet again on September 22nd and 23rd in Tallahassee, where we will continue to educate ourselves on the whole gamut of property taxes. But I am fighting the good fight for the village of Key Biscayne because it's a very unique community. It's a barrier island, and I would not want to see any part of your homestead property taxes eliminated, which is what the governor's proposal is. I think we have to be very careful. It all sounds good when you tell people you're going to eliminate property taxes, but it's really a shift of tax because you got to find the money somewhere. And for you all, it would be $11 million, of which you have no capacity to find. So I want you to know that I'm being very thoughtful, as is the entire 37-member committee made up of Republicans and Democrats from across the state in big communities, small communities, and communities like this one where you're a barrier island. We are charged with looking at every option. There will be relief for sure. The question is what? But I will keep you all posted as we move through that because that's probably going to be a very important discussion for all of you. So if there's any questions, that is my update, Mr. Mayor.
Question on the development of the property tax. Thank you so much, by the way, for the comprehensive report. When is that, what's the timeline of
Sure.
that, just to kind of give people an idea? Of
Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you, Council Member. So basically, we will move, so that you all know, this is an early session year because it's an election year in 2026. So we'll go into session in January. Committee weeks begin now in October. So the first 2 weeks in October, we'll have 2 weeks in November, and then a week in December, and then we will start session. I believe that this is a priority of the House, and so that whatever we decide, and let's look at it in two kind of buckets, if you will. As you know, our Constitution says that if we're going to do anything with property taxes, it has to be a constitutional amendment that will be put before the voters in November of 2026. We are charged with having a resolution that defines what those constitutional amendments will be, whether it's one or more than one. We will have to pass the language that we would like to be placed on the ballot. There are other things that we can do that don't require constitutional amendment, and we're looking at those as well. I will tell you that I'm a firm believer in trying to hold harmless our public safety. I can't imagine a world in which we don't have law and order. And that is critically important to me, and that is one place where I know that the committee has been clear that we're not looking to reduce in any way our public safety services, because that's what it would amount to, right, if you reduce them. So, you know, it's interesting. I want to tell you that I just reviewed your budget that you'll be looking at for this month with the administration, and you all are doing a really great job. And I have to tell you, because I'm looking at budgets across the state, and you have a really good story to tell. And I told the mayor and I told the manager, other communities are now passing resolutions that are called urgings, where they urge the legislature to do something. I think you should do the same, and this time you should say, whereas, and tell the story. Tell the story of how you've are proposing a reduction in millage rate. Tell the story of this particular community, because it's my job to give voice to that. That will be an extra added tool in my toolbox. But it's concerning because as you hear people talk about it, no one is breaking down the different communities, right? We're not all the same. One size will not fit all. But I'm anxious to keep you posted, because the timing will probably be, there will be probably several bills that will be filed on behalf of the committee. And that would probably happen maybe November, early December. They would go through a committee, maybe one or two committees, and then the speaker would like it to be one of the first bills that passes off the floor in January. So.
Could you hit a little bit more on that same topic, the differences between Miami-Dade County and some county in north of the state, and the trouble that you have seen and that your committee has seen, and how to try to tailor, something that works in Miami-Dade County won't work in a county where the highest property value might be $350,000.
Well, that's exactly right, Mr. Mayor. I think what we have seen is, so we have a county, Bay County, whose homes do not exceed a value of $250,000. Here, they're exceeding almost $1 million, right? So you can't put an amount. What we're now discovering is we might have to do things in percentages, right? Because then it will allow for the flexibility of a very different community like ours versus a small community in Bay County. And I think because we have members that are representing these really small communities, they're the first ones to put up their hand and say, if you do portability of $1 million, that doesn't help us, right? And it doesn't, unfortunately, but it helps us here. So there's going to be a lot of discussions about how we make this fair and equitable. And listen, this is not for the faint of heart. This is a complex situation. If I thought condos was complex, this is going to be probably the biggest work I'll do as a member of the House. So we just have to, we have to take it slow and thoughtful. There's a lot of implications here that can have a lot of negative consequences. So I want to make sure that you're involved in these discussions. Obviously, I have an open door. If you have ideas, please share them with me that I can also share with my staff in the Speaker's office as we work through what I think will be a very arduous process, to be honest with you.
Well, again, thank you for being here with us tonight. We appreciate you coming out and the work that you do on our behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted you to know how much I love coming here. It's like a little bit of a relief from the crazy of the mainland. It truly is. It's a paradise, and I want to make sure that I help to keep it that way. Thank you so very much.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
We have one more special presentation that we wanted to make, and this is unusual, and hopefully we don't do this in the future. But we've had so many issues with our power outages and issues that we thought it was very important to have a representative come and let you know what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve in the future. And this is Chris Ferreira from Florida Power and Light, who will be giving a short presentation, and then we'll jump right into the budget.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Rasco, and we're off to a good start. I didn't mess up the IT here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Ferreira. I'm the FPL External Affairs Area Manager for the area of Key Biscayne. With me tonight, I also have Rainier Rodriguez, who is our engineering leader from the Central Dade Service Center. That's the local FPL service center that services the Key Biscayne area. I wanted to start off tonight by first thanking you all and thanking our customers in Key Biscayne for your patience, first of all, through what was a rare and challenging situation that we experienced back on July 24th. And I'll get into some details as to why that was. We understand that we deliver an essential service, right? Our lives are powered by electricity. And when there is an outage or an interruption in your service, we know that can be very impactful and disruptful for your everyday lives, right? At FPL, we work day in and day out on three things. The first one is to deliver energy from a diverse mix of fuel sources. The second is to deliver the most affordable bill that we can for our customers. And lastly, it's to deliver the most reliable service that we can for our customers as well. And then I want to thank you tonight for the opportunity to come here and provide a brief update on what's been going on. We're going to take a look at what the historical reliability in Key Biscayne has been. We're going to look at how the electric grid works and go through the series of events that happened back in July. And then lastly, I'm going to share with you what is our action plan, right? What is our short-term and our long-term action plan here in Key Biscayne to ensure that we're delivering the most reliable service for our customers. So I'll start off with this first slide here, and on this slide we have two utility industry metrics that we track all through our service territory, right? The first one is called SAIDI, which is basically the rolling 12-month average for the number of minutes that customers experience interruptions in a year. And the second one is called SAIFI, and that's basically the same style metric, a 12-month rolling average, showing the frequency of outages that customers experience throughout the territory, right? You'll see that on the left-hand side, we have a blue line, which is the FPL service territory average, right? That's the average across our entire system. And then the red line is the average here in Key Biscayne. Same goes for the chart on the right. And what we can see here is that over the course of the last 3 years, going all the way back to October 2022, we're seeing that the metrics are showing us that service within the village of Key Biscayne is consistent with the FPL system average. Additionally, I think going back to the fact that the July events were rare and unusual, our team also did some research to go back and see when was the last time that we had an event, what we call double contingency, and we were not able to find one in recent time that happened here in Key Biscayne, or if it happened at all during the time that Key Biscayne's been around. Now, moving to how the electric grid works, I thought it was important to do a little 101 on how energy gets to your home to understand what happened in July, right? On the slide here, you'll see that there's a power plant all the way on the left-hand side. That's where all of our power is generated, right? It's either through natural gas, nuclear, or solar. We also have batteries that are connected that supply similar style power to the grid. And then we have transmission lines. If you think of like the interstate system or the highway system in Florida, the transmission lines are a similar style system, right? They carry high voltage, high amounts of power from the power plant to what are called substations, right? And those are distributed all throughout the state of Florida in communities to help step down the voltage, right? Now that voltage is not ready for consumption in your house. Transmission delivers power at tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity. The substation steps it down to tens of thousands. And then ultimately it gets distributed through what we call feeder lines in the community. Those are main neighborhood power lines, that's another way of calling it. Or lateral lines, which are neighborhood lines, that's another terminology that we use. And then ultimately on those poles, both on feeder lines and on lateral lines, you'll see what are transformers, right? That steps down the power from the tens of thousands of volts, ultimately to what you get in your electrical outlet that's in your home. Here in Key Biscayne, just to be a little bit more specific on how power gets delivered, you have a couple of substations that provide energy to the city. One being the Key Biscayne substation, which is right here at the entrance of Crandon Park Boulevard, right into the village. And then another substation, which is over in Virginia Key. Those feeders come into the village and then distribute power throughout the area. Now, specifically talking about the July 24th event and the area that was impacted, the condo site on the east side of the village, we have multiple underground feeders that run throughout that area that provide redundancy for our customers. Now in buildings, many of the buildings on that side of the island, and this is important context to have, is that are high rise, high density, high load, have what are called electrical vaults, right? And the reason why I have an electrical vault is because in an overhead system, you would have a pole that has a switch and a transformer that supplies power, steps power down for the building. Whereas in an underground area, for a building in a high density, higher, urban area, we don't have that real estate. We don't have that pole or that facility to locate that equipment, right? So what we do is we work with the building once it's being built to basically provide us space, the vault room, to locate our transformers and switches, right? And in many of the buildings, we have what are called IMAC throwover switches, right? Which basically have a preferred feeder, which is the power, the feeder that provides power on a daily basis to that building, and then what's called a backup feeder, which in the event of emergency, or an outage, I should say, not an emergency, an outage, the switch will automatically sense that there's an issue, an interruption in service on the preferred feeder, and switch over and automatically restore power to the customers in that building from the backup feeder. So I'm going to now jump into what happened that day, but that context I think was important to understand why it was a rare event, why it was a challenging restoration for us. So going to July, back to July and what happened. As I mentioned, there are multiple feeders that provide power in this area. And two feeders in particular, the Key Biscayne feeder, that's an underground one, and a Virginia Key feeder, that's also an underground one, both experienced faults or outages within the matter of a week, right? On July 17th, we had a fault on the Key Biscayne feeder. The system worked the way that it should, and so what customers most likely experienced in that moment was a flicker or a blink in service, and the system restored power using the backup feeder, which was the Virginia Key feeder. On July 17th, we assigned it to FPL crews that were working on that feeder to bring it back into service to restore the area back to normal. However, they experienced challenges in the fact that a cable connection, which was the failure point in that line, was in a inaccessible location. It required basically cable pulling to take place, which is a more complex repair. That's why we designed with redundancy in these areas to have a backup feeder so we don't have customers out for an extended period. Unfortunately, on July 24th, the Virginia Key feeder also experienced an outage, another cable connection that failed. And what basically took place was that several condominium buildings on the east side of the village that were being fed a preferred and a backup feeder by both the Key Biscayne and the Virginia Key feeders and vice versa, had no feeder to provide power to the building. So our team immediately attempted to come up with an alternative solution to restore as many customers as quickly as possible. And that's when they attempted to reconnect the feeders to an overhead feeder, so a third feeder, and that feeder was overloaded and could not withstand the load of basically three feeders on one, right? So given the situation that they were in, what they attempted to do at that point was attempt to repair one of the underground feeders. And at the same time, simultaneously, they were running what are called ground straps. And ground straps, you may have seen the pictures or seen or heard that they were basically power lines that were running between palm trees that were hanging from trees and between buildings. Those lines are insulated. Those lines were safe in the moment. Those lines were never put into service, by the way, but they were being run as a plan C or D, if you want to call it, in the event that we were not able to get one of the underground feeders back up within a reasonable amount of time. We left those lines, those ground straps, overhead for about 2 weeks in case there was another issue while we were completing repairs in the area, that we would not be in a similar situation again. I'm happy to report that within the end of July, beginning of August, all repairs to the feeders were completed. The system was put back into its normal configuration, and customers have had their normal redundancy and service since the beginning of August. Now, looking to the future and how we can improve and ensure service reliability here in the village for our customers, our company has looked at a number of steps that we can take, and I organized them here for you in the same way that power flows, right? We're starting at the substations. We did proactive substation inspections, and we also replaced equipment on a proactive basis that we identified. Key Biscayne substation was completed back on September 3rd, and as we meet here today, crews at Virginia Key are working to replace some equipment on a proactive basis. We expect that work to be completed by next week. Going down to the feeder lines, or the main neighborhood lines, we conducted drone patrols on all the overhead feeders to identify any potential issues. Those drone patrols were completed back on August 18th, and the analysis being done on those drone reports that came back. So far, we've identified that we should replace equipment proactively at 3 locations and clear vegetation at 18. We expect that work to be done by September 30th. Additionally, on the underground side of the island and the underground feeders that feed the island, I missed the point earlier, but I think it's important to mention this, is that when we completed repairs on those feeders, we did a few things. We inspected them, we repaired them, and we also tested those feeder cables before placing them back into service. Additionally, we're going to be undertaking additional work to install underground fault current indicators. That's basically a smart device that helps us identify where a fault or a failure point may be in the line. That's brand new equipment that is being rolled out across the FPL service territory, and we'll be installing it here in Key Biscayne as one of the first municipalities to have it. We expect that to be completed in the first quarter of 2026. And additionally, on the overhead feeders, we're going to be upgrading those fault current indicators, and we expect that to be done by the year's end. And then lastly, in terms of short-term actions, the last step in the delivery of power is the inspection of the FPL vaults, the electrical vault rooms that are in the condominium buildings. We're going to be inspecting the equipment that's in there, including the IMAC throwover switches, to ensure that that equipment is operating as it should, so that if it does need to be utilized to restore power, that it's available for customers to receive power again. Now, in terms of long-term actions, an area of opportunity that was identified by our team to improve the redundancy in the area and our flexibility were a couple of items. The first one is to extend a 3rd underground feeder within the existing duct bank into that area, and basically that would help us reduce the number of buildings that would be facing an exposure or an outage should they experience one. Then the last one, it's a proposal that I think our company wanted to put back on the table. It's something that we've been doing for many years across the state of Florida, and I know that the village is currently going through an underground conversion project, but we wanted to put back on the table the option of having us come in and do an investment in hardening our overhead feeders. This would do a couple of things for us. One, it will have stronger poles out there. 2, it will allow us to upgrade the size of the cable that's on those feeder lines. 3, having that larger cable will have additional loading capacity, which will allow us to switch over feeders if we need to. And 4th, it will allow us to install smart grid technology, additional smart grid technology on those hardened feeders. At the end of the day, that's a decision that we seek input from the village on. Regardless of which option you do, if you continue with the underground conversion or you allow us to do the overhead feeder hardening, we'll be here as a partner to ensure that we're designing and building systems that meet our standards and that are the most reliable for our customers to ensure they have reliable service from us. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and Rainier's available as well.
Okay,
there's any
a
questions
couple of
from
quick
the
questions
council.
so that we can dive into the budget.
I'll
Go
be
ahead.
very quick. Can you identify the reason why the underground, the specific reason why those underground lines went on, and how did you detect that?
The underground lines,
The underground
cable
fails,
connections.
yeah, that you mentioned.
So we don't have a specific reason why the underground cable connections fail. We just know that when we went out there to go check the feeder cable, we basically go through a series of sectionalizing and testing of the cable, and we identified there were a couple locations where connections had failed. Since then, we've inspected the cable, we've completed repairs to all those locations that were identified, and then we tested that cable once repairs were complete to ensure there were no additional fault points.
Do you have a method to identify if there is a failure in the underground line? Do you have a method to identify the location? Let's say if it's above ground, you can see, you can
Sure.
get it, but when it's below ground, you really can't unless you have some specific technology. Can you articulate a little more for the public? We're having this ongoing discussion about underground, above ground. Obviously, the fact that you mentioned that this was a underground, it's a little unsettling not knowing where if we have a.
Sure, so I'm not an engineer, nor do I operate the system,
got one
but
there.
Rainier is my subject
over.
matter expert here tonight, so I'm gonna ask him to step in here and help answer that question, okay?
Good evening. Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, overhead, you can see it, right, when there's a fault. As far as underground, we do have a way to do it, and basically we put DC voltage on the cable when it's de-energized, and they kind of thump on it and they're hearing it. They narrow down to where the location is. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be inside a manhole. In this case, for this specific scenario, it wasn't a manhole. We did identify it, and then from there, it's repairing. I think you asked also if we have a way of knowing when it fails, and we do. Real time, as soon as there's a fault, that breaker opens, and we get notified real time.
Do you have any measurements for repair times, say above ground or below ground? What's faster, what's quicker?
So quicker as far as repairs is definitely overhead.
Overhead, it's a
Right,
lot,
we can
it's a
see it while it's
no-brainer,
down,
isn't
you put
it?
it up.
Yeah.
Underground, it's a little more difficult and sometimes can take weeks.
Right. Okay. I mean, have you noticed as an engineer that you've had issues related to underground and saltwater intrusion coming into the lines or affecting it in any way, shape, or form?
No, not with the cable. We may have that with transformers. Obviously, as we've seen, especially in the last couple of years on the West Coast with the flooding. But as far as cable and water intrusion, no. If there is a failure, basically now there might be a hole in the cable and water can get into it. But as far as how we repair it, we'll go and test it, and then if we need to cut back and or pull a new cable, then we'll go ahead and do that. But it wouldn't cause a failure.
I know we're short on time, but I think this is a very important discussion. I know you wanted to do this once, Mayor, but I think it's important to have I want to delve deeper into the understanding of underground, above ground, since a few years have gone by since we had our committee and everybody's still pushing for underground, but I'm hearing stuff like this and it's kind of concerning that the real outage came up from an underground system as above to an above ground. I'm not here to, I just want to have a better understanding. I think the public deserves a better understanding and how underground and above ground has evolved or devolved during this period of time since all different municipalities have gone in this undertaking to underground utilities for aesthetic purposes.
Sure, and if I can just add something real quick here. There's pros and cons to everything, right? There's no perfect system anywhere in the world, right? Overhead systems, like Rainier mentioned, have typically quicker restoration times, but they're also more susceptible to overhead interruptions, right? Vegetation, animals, lightning, things that could hit the equipment.
Sure.
Underground typically has none of those issues, right? There's typically better reliability underground.
Right.
But there's pros and cons. I would love if you have any opportunity or availability to sit down with you and discuss
I would
it
ask
further.
through the manager if it's possible that we have a smaller workshop or something to
Yes,
better understand.
I think
in
that
light of
we're
the
trying to
discussions that we're
schedule that now in early October.
having. Okay, great.
So, yeah, and Chris is
So-
aware of it. We're targeting, yes, I think the clerk is reaching out to the council. I think we've tentatively put October 8th.
October 8th,
And you're
yes.
gonna work on, before we kick off, you know, as we talked about in the last council meeting.
Before we continue to
Yeah,
explore.
we want to make
ideas,
sure
let's
that we
understand.
have, obviously, council consensus, administration understands the direction we want to go. We want to hear from the
Exactly.
community to make sure that we've made the right decision to move forward.
Exactly. That's all I'm going at. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank, no, thank you for coming out tonight, and this will be a continuing discussion for our October workshop. With that,
Next item is public comments.
yes, and please, I hope that you zero in on our budget, which is the topic of tonight. So I'm going to take those comments. Mike Davy.
Gonna bring my entourage with me. I figure everybody's bringing entourages to these things, so why not? Mike Davy, 50 Ocean Lane Drive. I am here with the members of the Disability and Inclusion Committee Board, Advisory Board. And we are here to speak about the Disability and Inclusion Director position that we'd like to see implemented in the village. I'm here really to just speak. This was something that was important to me when I was in Joe's chair. I think it's important for this village. I think it's critical that a community like ours looks out for those who sometimes get overlooked. And this position, the goal of this position, and I'll let the folks here explain a little bit more, is the purpose is to include across the gamut. It's not just the Parks and Rec Department, but it's everywhere. It's making sure that we are looking out for those who are most vulnerable in our community. So I am here to advocate for that, and I'll let the rest of the team take over because they're better.
Elise Binhack, 772 Ridgewood Road. Good evening, council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it short. As members of the Disability Advisory Board, we remain committed to our recommendation that the village create a Disability and Inclusion Director position. We know this is a significant investment, and we also recognize the budget challenges you face. But the need is real and has not gone away, and our advice stands. A person with the requisite background and training in this dedicated role is essential to ensuring that accessibility and inclusion are not just discussed, but acted upon and communicated with every village department. This is much broader than Parks and Rec and community groups offering programs. This is much broader than fixing a curb for ADA compliance. While we look ahead, we must also act now. There are basic immediate services the village can and should provide that are standard in other neighboring communities. At our board meeting this past July, we passed a motion to advise council to purchase beach wheelchairs and beach accessibility mats. Members of the board also did a survey of each of the 6 beach access paths and noted repairs needed to make them wholly accessible. These are not luxuries. They're essentials for people and families who simply want to enjoy the shoreline together. Both Crenham Park to our north and Bill Baggs Park to the south have the wheelchairs and mats, yet we do not. In another example, the information on making a request for accommodations is on page 8 of 13 pages of the village's non-discrimination policy. Honestly, there should be a separate and distinct form that is clearly posted on the village website. These absences are just 2 of the many examples that accessibility needs are not being fully considered within the current staffing structure. So tonight we urge action. Let's reallocate money to fund a director and let's act quickly on beach accessibility. Inclusion cannot wait. It is a moral responsibility. Every day we delay, we leave neighbors and visitors on the margins. We must value every resident, every visitor, and every voice. We must decide, are we a village that does the minimum and just talks about community with some good intentions? Or can we be one that, according to our own village mission statement, pursues excellence and is guided by integrity and ethics, committed to doing what's best to earn and maintain the community's confidence. We hope the latter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes care of Alexander and Terry, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Michelle Esteves.
Michelle Esteves, 425 Great Tree Drive. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, council members, I am here on giving you a short report for the July parade. This year, the expenditures were $69,330. We received donations and selling shirts and everything else at $23,473. The village have allocated a reimbursement of $40,000. So we have to figure it out and absorb the balance of $6,000. I have a little discussion with Todd. Unfortunately, I received the numbers late this evening. I will urge that if Todd come with some changes in the budget, that accept it and allocate a little more funding in our allocation, the $40,000. The idea will be to have 10. You know that this work that you don't give the money to the foundation, it's just that we submit the bills and you reimburse the foundation for the expenditures. And this year we were short of 2 bands. In that way, we are a little lucky because otherwise the parade will have cost almost $70,000. All the cost has been going up, as you know. We are eager to continue to deliver a good parade, so I would like to request that you consider a little bit increase in the $40,000 if it's possible. I'm going to address and I support the request that they have for the disability assistant. I think that I'm going to just remind you that when we proposed to purchase the Villa Green, they said, who's going to use the Village Green? Will be only homeless. When we start trying to develop the community center, we fight for what is going to go in the community center. We need to double size of the community center. I remember the seniors, Ed Stone was coming here and banging for some funding and support and have some director and da-da-da. I don't know if some of you, I know you attended to the seniors events and senior lunches. The room is too small. So the same thing that they have requested you this evening. I think that is a large number of disability people that they need to enjoy the island, that I do, that all of you do, that you don't have disabilities. So please look into it, and that will be one more addition that I think is shared with all the residents on the island. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Tony Winton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm speaking in support of a budget item.
And
This
your
is
name and address. Sorry.
Tony Winton, 121 Crandon Boulevard. I'm speaking in support of a budget item to increase the size of records personnel in the village of Key Biscayne. The public record situation, let's just put it this way, it could be better. So I'm grateful for that addition, and I speak in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Luis de la Cruz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager. I'm here to ask you to please not put
Name and
the,
address.
sorry, Luis de la Cruz, 640 Allendale.
Thank you.
Not to put the cart before the horse. You know, the big dig, or whatever it is that you all want to call it now, has not been approved. You know, as a matter of fact, right now, we're negotiating with a person who I believe is probably going to put together a proposal that's going to be the right thing to do here for our stormwater drainage. And he hasn't even started. So Now we have a budget that, I think the first item asked for authority to borrow $23 million to go forward with the big dig. That's just not right. You know, there's no hurry. This is the 270th day of the year, or 269th day of the year. 70% of the year has gone by. We have had 3 days where there has been any type of significant flooding, which, by the way, resolved within 3 or 4 hours of low tide or high tide. So we don't have a problem that we have to do anything about today, tomorrow, next year, within the next 5 years, or even 10 years. Now, yes, I would like to make certain areas drain a little bit faster while it is raining. Everybody wants to do that. There's no need to go out there and borrow $23 million towards a project that you've been told different times that could cost us, just for 12% of the village of Key Biscayne, approximately somewhere between 90 and $100 million. Just don't do it. Wait, okay? Because, I mean, if the big dig is approved, it's not a threat or anything, but I am pretty sure that there will be a movement to do a referendum, and you should give time for that, because at the end of the day, if there is enough people and 800 signatures are obtained in order to do a referendum, you should listen to your residents. So please don't do this. Don't go and spend our money, taxpayers' money, doing something that hasn't been approved and that we're actually exploring a much better solution to. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. With that, let's go into 6A. And what we usually do, if you recall, is we'll take up 6A, table it, and go to our ordinance, which is 7A, and that is the crux of the budget. So could I have a,
May I read the resolution title?
yes, go ahead.
A resolution of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, adopting the proposed millage rate of the Village of Key Biscayne for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026, pursuant to Florida Statute 200.065 Trim Bill, setting a date for a final public hearing to adopt the millage rate, providing for an effective date.
Move it.
Second.
Move to the second. Can we go ahead and table the motions that we need to do, Mr.
Motion to table.
Move to table.
Move to table? Do I have a second? All those in favor of
Who's the
tabling?
second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, can you read ordinance 7A then?
Yes, an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, adopting the budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026, pursuant to Section 200.065 Florida Statutes Trim Bill, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded, the ordinance is properly before us.
Thank you.
Let's do this budget presentation first, and then we'll get into it.
Mr. Mayor, you're leaving.
Huh?
You're leaving. I thought we had a
I've
budget.
never seen that show before.
I'm ready. I'm just waiting for him.
While the mayor's here, can we, I know Councilmember Bracken is appearing via virtually, and because it is a budget meeting, I think it would be good if we could just have a motion to confirm that you guys are okay with him appearing virtually.
I'll move it.
Second.
Just call.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect, thank
Opposed?
you.
Motion carries.
Thanks, guys.
You ready to roll, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and the community who are here today, and those who are listening to us on Zoom. We'd like to present our budget proposal for FY '26. And the real purpose of what we're here for today is to propose a FY '26 budget that aligns valued resources to achieve our strategic goals. Our intention is to use taxpayers' dollars with precision, integrity, and purpose, with the idea to focus on delivering essential services, meeting residential's expectations, and taking into consideration, and this is important, current economic conditions. This goes through the timeline that starts our budget process all the way back to April, where we began the strategy process, went through a budget workshop, had a couple community meetings, went through a detailed line item evaluation of our budget, and then of course we're here today, September 11th, for the first budget hearing. Second budget hearing is scheduled for September 29th. This is our agenda for today. I think you've had a chance to take a look at it, and this will drive us through our steps until we come to our recommended millage at the end. This just reminds the council and our community that our budget is strategy focused. This is not something that just comes up. This is something that's done very deliberately throughout the year to make sure that we focus on the goals and mission that are most important to us. Coming out of those strategy sessions, looking at our goals, looking at our residents' interests and our wants, we came up with 10 focus areas that we aligned this budget with. And you can see them there. I don't need to speak them each individually, but there is one that is new, which is partnering with local public schools. And then also we pulled out from what we called resilient infrastructure before, and so happens to be very good that we had FPL here tonight, improving power reliability. The rest are pretty much carryovers from last year. With that, I'd like to have our CFO, Benjamin Nussbaum, come forward. This is a very important slide. It gives an overview of where we stand as a financial posture for the village. And those three words up top tell the story: strength, protection, and potential.
Good evening. So these boxes should look familiar. And as the manager mentioned, we really wanted to highlight big picture before we get into the granular budget worksheets. Where is the village? How is our health financially? So in these purple boxes, once again, we have our healthy reserves, 57% of our operating budget. If you remember, we set our target at 50%, so we exceed that. And we'll get into the discussion of what do we do with the excess reserves when we get into the presentation. We continue to have a low debt to revenue ratio. Debt only makes up 2.5% of our total budget. In terms of debt capacity, this is based on 1% of our taxable value, and the village has $111 million of capacity available because our taxable value is now $11.7 billion. Grants under management, $12.5 million. You know, we always prioritize receiving other people's money before we go to our tax base. In the middle box here, it's not just the manager and myself telling this good financial story. We are rated by external credit rating agencies. So these are third-party credit rating agencies, Moody's and S&P, and they both rank us one off the AAA rating, which is Moody's AA1 and S&P AA. I think the manager sent you a note that we had discussions with them about how do we move up to get to AAA. I want to be at the elite level, and the reality was, based on our geographical location, it just will not happen. And the rating agency analyst had mentioned to me, if you move your municipality 7 miles west, you would be AAA without a doubt based on your financials. So there's nothing in our control that we can do. We've taken all the steps, and our financial position demonstrates that. It's just geographically, because of our environmental risk, because of our, he mentioned an average of 3 foot of above sea level, that we will not reach the highest mark. But good to know for you all, as we get into borrowing, if you're Moody's A1 or S&P AA, the spread between AAA and these ratings is very minimal in terms of the borrowing rates that we receive. So even though we're not at the elite level, we are very, very, very strong, and we will obviously receive low interest rates when it comes down to borrowing. Our pension coverage is 95.1%. Our police and fire labor here receives a fixed benefit pension. We're not part of the FRS. We manage our own. And in reality, that's the actuarial rate. What actuaries do is they kind of smooth the market performances over 5 years, so you don't have the ebbs and flow of the market. If I look at the latest valuation on a market value basis, we actually are above 100%. So we are very, very, very strong in terms of pension coverage, which helps us operate, if you look at the bottom right corner, as one of the lowest overlapping millage in all of Miami-Dade County. So
Question on pension coverage.
Sure.
What's the FRS coverage?
I believe FRS is somewhere in the 70s, is my guess.
Okay.
I think the more important portion is, more important point is, if you're a member of FRS, they have much higher percentage of covered salary contributions you'd have to pay in.
For
versus-
those of you who don't know, it's the Florida retirement system. That's the system of pension that the county and a lot of municipalities use.
And then the two bottom ones, which are the lighter purple, these are more, I guess, concerned areas and how we're going to address them. So we have a growing maintenance, repair, rehab, renovation, and replacement of existing areas. We've identified $21.2 million backlog based on our facilities of repairs that have to be made. Now, obviously, we can't address all of that in 1 year. We don't have the bandwidth to repair all that, and obviously the financial commitment to do so. However, we have a plan to start chipping away at that maintenance backlog, and we'll show that later tonight. And the other is the undiversified revenue sources. As the representative mentioned earlier, property tax reform is on the horizon. Key Biscayne does have a large percentage of our revenue coming from ad valorem taxes. So the manager and I have looked at other revenue sources, and we've been able to decrease this number slightly. However, because most of our budget goes to public safety, goes to public works, and those are not revenue generating departments, we'll always have a significant amount of our revenues that are undiversified and from property taxes. On the left-hand side, really our story, we're really excited and passionate putting together this budget, because this will be the 5th consecutive year we'll be proposing to lower our millage rate. So I think this is very unique in terms of other municipalities or counties in their presentations. So 5 straight years that the manager and I have put this program together, and we're happy to be able to propose that to give some property tax relief to our community and our residents. So I want to really emphasize that's big picture level of what we're getting into tonight.
Well, on the debt situation, have we encumbered the debt on any of the Zone 1?
For only planning and design, but not the $20 million construction loan that we had presented at the last council meeting to increase our maximum.
So in
stormwater
other
rates. We
words,
have
this
not.
council has not made that decision at this point in time.
That's correct.
So why is it in the budget?
So if remember, the budget just appropriates the dollars, we still have to come to the council to approve any borrowing from, let's say, the state revolving fund loan. That'll take 2 readings and an ordinance. This is just appropriating the funds. We have to come back to the council for any decision to borrow money.
Or to spend.
And to spend as well.
And that's also, if you look at the money we have against the GOB, which would be for undergrounding, same process, at least to come back to the council for 2 decisions in order to make that important decision go forward.
So in effect, this creates a source of the ability to service debt if, as and when within this coming year, we decide to take down any of this money for any purpose.
That's correct.
By the way, what's the percentage reliance on ad valorem across, do you have peer cities?
So this one's a little more difficult to benchmark, because when I look at this across peer cities, we're a full service city. So that means we offer both fire and police, and there's only 4 others like us in that regard. Those other municipalities are also going to have a higher percentage of their revenue source from ad valorem. If you look at this across the board, our number sticks out as a high number, and it's something that the representative, she was surprised at the number too, until we explained why we're a little different. So in terms of our peers, it's probably a more normal number, but in terms of some of the other municipalities, it's going to be higher just because of the services we offer. We are able to, we do more services here.
The county might be a better peer.
Who is this?
The county. You know what the county's percentage is?
I don't know offhand.
That's hard, obviously, you look at some of the larger cities, the larger economic centers, they bring a lot of money from businesses and so forth and revenues. We don't quite have that revenue or the business economic drivers here. We could take a look at it, but that's...
When it's time to write that urgings letter, we're going to need to be articulate about that.
Yes, there's the comparables are, you want to look at cities similar to our size. number one. Number two, you want to look at cities or municipalities that are on the coast. And then thirdly, like Benjamin said, when you're full service, you want to look at the full service. The full service, though, are Hialeah, Coral Gables, Miami, and the county.
Miami Beach.
And Miami Beach. Yeah. So you kind of have to look at those, and that's what we'll do. We'll make comparisons to, we're a unique village, as you know, in the services that we provide.
Pompano might be included because I think they do fire in Broward. Okay.
Nope. The former Broward fire chief just said no. I take his word for it.
So on the left-hand side, we kind of explained how we did this with financial innovation and growth. We really worked on diversifying our revenue sources, and I thank you for approving some of those resolutions when we looked at fees that hadn't been increased in a long time that needed to be brought to market. Helps us run this low tax program. And then lastly, there's a link at the bottom just to remind you all, because I receive a lot of questions. All of our financial activity, all the checks we write is available on ClearGov. That's our public portal. It's available for the council, for the public. It's a real-time look into our finances, so everything is available for viewing. So we're going to start with the presentation. We're actually going to start on the expenditure side. It's going to look a little different than how we did this before. We started with revenues, but I thought it was important to stay true to the story of how we do this internally. So the manager kicked off there was a slide earlier that told you the timeline of how we prepared a budget. And the reality is we start on the expenditure side. The manager and I meet with all of our department directors, and we review their budget line item by line item where they're justifying what they're spending on. Does it align with our goals for the upcoming year? And we are agnostic to the revenues until we find out on June 1st and later confirmed on July 1st from the property appraiser what the revenues are. And the reason we do that is if there's excess revenue beyond what we need, we like to present that to the council with the new initiative list to say, these are the other additional items that we can do. We don't need this additional revenue. So we always focus on our expenditures first, revenues coming after, and if there's excess, we can either lower the taxes or we can identify some priority items for some capital one-time expenditures that you all would like to do. So we'll get to that menu later. This is how it looks across the village in terms of cost drivers. Obviously, our biggest category and our most important, I say our number one asset is obviously our people and cost, but also they're our greatest asset because they're the ones that are delivering these great services. So 55% of our budget, it goes to personnel. Professional contractual services is about 15%, and operations, maintenance, and repair, or items that don't fit in the first two categories, make up 20%. Below the line item, we have 2.3%, so it's now under 2.5% is for debt service, and 7.7% transfers out. That includes a 1% transfer out to the Parks, Rec, and Open Space Land Trust Fund, and additional transfer out money for capital projects. As I mentioned, here's our debt situation. We have a debt capacity of $117 million, which is 1% of our $11.7 billion of taxable value. And here's the outstanding general fund debt that we currently have, which is only $6 million. So the difference between $117 million of capacity and the $6 million we have outstanding is about $111 million of flexibility that we are under the cap. And of course, I highlight the interest rates that since we did most of the refinancing in 2021 that we're carrying for the next 10 years or so at a weighted average of 1.27%, so very, very low. Here's how the expenditures look, as we call this a roll-up by department. So here's all the different villages departments. It's the first time you've seen this. They're the village council, the clerk's office, the administration, which includes the manager's office and finance, IT, communications, human resources, the attorney, planning and zoning, police, fire rescue, public works, and then there's 3 departments within Parks, Rec, and Open Spaces, which are Parks and Recreation, the Community Center, and Athletics. So here's the roll-ups and how they look by department. Overall, on the operating expenditure side, we're only increasing by 3.1%. So obviously very low when you consider kind of where inflation's been. We've been able to manage this by really taking a deep dive and looking at our budget and coming up with clever ways to keep these costs low. Now we flip to the revenue side. The property valuation increase this year. Yes.
Ask a quick question. What is the difference between Parks and Rec and Athletics?
Sure. So the athletics is actually the sports programs. So we're talking basketball, field hockey, volleyball, soccer, versus Parks and Recreation has to do with some administrative offices, actually funding repairs of the fields and other park spaces, not just the Village Green, but the other parks that we have as well.
Community center?
Community center is its own category here as well. That's a third category. So there's 3 different departments within there.
And that just happens to be a legacy budget structure that we've had in the village, and so in order to keep it consistent, we've kept it that way going forward.
I understand, thank you.
But also the reason we keep them separate is I know we've presented when we brought a community center increase here, our goal of having the community center and athletics be 70% funded by the fees that people pay and 30% by taxes. So by keeping them separate, we're able to allocate and make sure we're within that target range of where we want to be. And if we have to increase or decrease fees to get back there. So it helps us to be more transparent, to show exactly what it costs to run the community center. Okay, now flipping over to the revenues, the property appraiser gave us a valuation which is 6.5% greater than it was in the prior year. So we went from $10.9 billion to $11.7 billion of taxable value for 2026. On the state revenue side, we're continuing to monitor sales tax. We had a huge boom during the pandemic. It's kind of tapered off now and slowed down. So we're seeing an increase, but not as quickly or aggressively as we saw it during the pandemic. For charges for services, our Parks and Recreation usage fees, our community center fees we're seeing a lot of activity in the facilities, which has been great, and we continue to benefit from increased interest income. However, we hear talk about lower interest rates on the horizon, so we've budgeted conservatively to make sure that we'll be prepared in case interest rates drop. Here's how the revenue projections work amongst the different categories of revenues. So ad valorem, obviously our biggest revenue source, 71% of our budget. We're proposing $32 million. Utility services tax, communication services tax, this would be on, let's say, cable TV. Franchise fees on electricity, charges for services, which include programming at the community center, athletics, licenses and permits, intergovernmental, which would be the majority of this is our share of sales tax, interest income, and miscellaneous revenue.
Hey, can you go back there?
Sure.
Quiet.
Okay, so we were talking about earlier the ad valorem representing 71% of our income, our revenue coming in. The difference is, if you're looking at this slide, between the 32,278 and the 45,620.
Mm-hmm.
So that amount, what's that number? 13.
Yeah, about 13,300.
Okay, so if you heavily impacted our $32 million number, you only have 13 million left to work with to try to fix the situation.
And that's something we talked with Representative Lopez about, is the 32.2 needs to be broken down further. How much of that is homestead, how much of that is non-homestead, so we can see the impact of some of the ideas that they're proposing at the select committees. We want to give her feedback and how that would affect Key Biscayne. I don't think some of the proposals we've heard so far is not to eliminate, well, some have been to eliminate all, but others have been more, I guess, tailored into certain segments of the property tax base.
So you're going to create like a dynamic analysis based on some of these changes or ideas that they're talking about?
Yeah, we're working with her office. We're involved. We watched over the summer some of the ideas that they proposed. We had an analysis on those ideas. Now we're going to watch again and work with her and show her how it affects Key Biscayne and what that would entail. You know, she mentioned holding public safety harmless. You see that's the biggest percentage of her budget, and it gets really difficult to do if you eliminate all of that. So we'll definitely walk her through the impacts here.
Well, that's why if you heard her, I'm not sure if you picked up when she said $11 million.
Yeah.
That 32 million minus public safety is $11 million. So
Right.
that's why she said that number.
Okay, so outside of the general fund, the village has 5 special revenue enterprise funds. These are revenue we take in for specific purposes that can't be commingled with the general fund. The first is our special revenue transportation fund, where we receive funding from local options gas tax and the half-cent sales tax that comes from the CITT. And we use that money to fund our 9 freebies and also roadway improvements such as the Harbor Drive road improvements and traffic calming devices. The next one is the Parks, Recs, and Open Space Land Trust Fund. And this is where we put 1% of our own ad valorem revenue into the Land Trust Fund to grow to then target for land acquisition. The third is a special revenue building fund where we charge building permitting fees, certificate of occupancy, lien search fees as well, and the expenditures can only be used to carry out the Florida Uniform Building Code. Then we have 2 enterprise funds at the end. These are added as non-ad valorem assessments on the tax bill for our stormwater utility and our solid waste utility.
Why an asterisk by the projected balance?
Because for the stormwater fund, it looks like it stays exactly the same. We're actually, you'll see in the capital plan, we're transferring money from the stormwater fund to pay for some capital projects.
Is there any thought that we could use any portion of the transportation fund for streetlights?
I believe you can. So the CITT requires a minimum of 20% to be spent on transit, which would be where freebie, and the other 80% can be spent on transportation. I believe streetlights may fall into that category. We're using the majority of it for transit. Now, if there's a different priority in how I think we're open to that discussion. If we'd rather spend it on a different streetlights or roadway improvements instead of transit, it's a discussion we're willing to have.
We'll take a look. CITT's got pretty strict rules, but we'll definitely take a look to see if that's part of it. I do believe that if you are going to make a complete street road where you're addressing all, transportation modes, whether it be, walking, bikes, and vehicles, the answer is yes. Now, whether it's individual lights, that's something we'll have to take a look into.
So after we laid out all of our expenditures, the baseline millage required was 2.6133, much less than our existing 2.9 millage rate. So then we identified, I want to go back to the discussion about reserves. Since we were at 57% and we exceeded our 50% target, the manager and I wanted to dip into the reserves to fund specifically some infrastructure, maintenance and repair rehab. This was that $20 million we identified earlier to say I wanted to start chipping away at it, and we identified the reserves, about $1.2 million of the reserves to start chipping away at that backlog of infrastructure projects. So the first 3 items here, which are the streetlights, which the aforementioned streetlights, connecting the community center from septic to sewer and replacing the community center generator, those 3 projects would come out of reserve, so wouldn't have an impact on the millage rate right now.
Is that the very number of your transfer from several slides ago, transfers out?
So the transfer would be the whole portion here. So below that 1.1, these are the items on, I guess let's say on the menu, the new initiatives to be funded by millage and would have an impact on the proposed millage rate. And we've prioritized these as best we can based on feedback from the workshops and the community surveys and discussions with you all to prioritize these items. And here's what we've recommended: $3.2 million of items that would be funded by the millage, which I think in the grand scheme of tonight, to get a feedback from the council on are these the items we want to approve, and would help us know exactly where we set our millage rate, because this is what has the impact for the discussion tonight. Going further into that capital program with those initiative lists, this breaks it down by type of items. So we have safe streets, maintenance, community safety, and a pie chart based on the funding sources. So we mentioned the part that comes from millage from the general fund. A big majority of this is going to come from loans or bonds, which will be paid back over 20 or 30 years, depending on the type of loan. Special revenue funds, this would be Councilmember Sardinius, where we transfer in from the stormwater funds to fund projects that are stormwater related in nature, external funds, and roll forward. And I want to be very clear, what roll forward means this money has already been taxed, the village has already appropriated it. It's money that has not been spent as of, or we don't project to within the next 2 weeks by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. So we roll forward because these are longer term projects, and we'll roll forward the funding. We don't need to ask for additional funding to get those projects done.
Go back to that slide. Do you have, are we doing 65 million in projects?
No, so the majority, if I show this slide, the bulk of this comes from the right-hand column here. If we look at grants and appropriations of 15 million, a Clean Water State Revolving Fund construction loan of 20 million, and general obligation bonds of 15 million.
It's really important. People, a lot of people get this wrong. If you count it in 1 year, you can't count it in the next year and the next year and the next year, because the project could be a multi-year project.
Exactly. So the right-hand column there represents about $51 million. And if you look at the left-hand column, which is roll forward, that's money the village already has in its kitty of $9.8 million as well. So we really like to focus on the general fund column. That's the column that's going to have the impact, and that's $4.1 million.
And you are right, Mr. Mayor, that is an important point to make. You know, obviously, that if you go to the first column, money already been appropriated. General obligation bond, as I said earlier, 2 or 3 votes to get there. State revolving fund, 2 or 3 votes to get there. Approval by council. Last one, our hard work of getting other people's money. So majority of what you're looking at here, that 65 million, if you add it up, 10 plus 26, 46, 60 some odd million of that is actually money that is either been appropriated, someone else's money, or yet to be approved by council for execution. However, in order to do an informative budget, to be transparent on what we're trying to achieve, we have to demonstrate if we choose to do something, this is where the money will come from.
So the ask on the general fund is $4 million.
Correct.
Is not, okay. That's right.
And we spoke about this earlier, after tonight, but before our next meeting, will you get us, all of us, a breakdown on that roll forward column of how much of that is encumbered?
Yeah, so everyone understands what Councilmember Stoner is requesting. The column that says roll forward, there's, I guess, to break it down further to say how much of this money's already been encumbered. We know, for instance, the St. Agnes Field construction is going on right now. We just haven't been invoiced for this, but the service is going on, versus there will be other items such as lower down, renovate Beach Park, where $1 million is there and nothing has gone to council. There's no contract signed. So if the council chose that they wanted to reallocate that money to a different project, you could do that. So the manager and I will go back and present exactly how much this money is already encumbered versus how much could be potentially offered up if we want to switch the priority and do something else. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here the proposal looks in a pie chart. On the right side, we have obviously about a little under half of our budget is public safety. So red would be fire, blue police. The green represents those 3 departments in Parks and Rec, which are Parks and Rec, Community Center, and Athletics. The blue is Public Works. The yellow consolidates the administrative support functions, finance, admin, communications. And then the small slivers are our council clerk, attorney, debt, and planning and zoning. So the total general fund budget there is 45.6 million, and that would include that 4.1 for the capital. It includes the 1% transfer to the land trust fund. It includes routine maintenance and repairs, and funding total all of our personnel and operations. So that's the all-in. If you approve the budget that's proposed, that's the 45.6 million.
And go back. That's really our operating budget, right?
Our general fund budget.
I mean, we could do 0 projects, do no projects at all, and we still have these basic core services that we're offering our citizens. We choose to do more, and that's the capital improvement budget, okay? And that's not part of this, and people also get confused with that. The capital improvement budget is, like I said, you could do 0 projects starting tomorrow, and you still have to do this operating budget everything else is extra. Things that our residents are asking for us to do, things that we need to do from a maintenance point of view. And so this is our real budget that we're looking at.
Correct, and I think, you know, having that flexibility as we go into future years where the outlook in terms of property valuation growth might not be so substantial as it was in years past, we feel comfortable that if you had to tighten the belt, you could tighten those one-time extra projects rather than actually have an effect on operations where we're not cutting staff to make ends meet. So we feel like we're in a good position, not just tonight, but obviously for the future years as well.
What happened those 3 years that we had negative valuation? Our valuation didn't increase. That was what, 2017, 18?
I think 19, 20, and 18, 19, and 20, I believe, yeah. Here, I'll have it.
It's on the slide.
Yeah, 18, 19, and well, fiscal year 19, 20, and 21, we actually had 3 straight declining years, and we did have to increase the millage rate slightly, but the alternative could also be to do less of those one-time capital extra projects as well. So we're not there now, but we're also looking to the future to make sure that we have a buffer there, and we'll be prepared to, if that's the case. So here's how it all rolls up into the millage rate. Our fiscal year 25, our current millage rate is 2.9794. What we're proposing, including those capital projects, is 2.9019, and the difference is a 2.6 reduction. And I want to, for those folks that are listening that are homesteaded, if you know the homestead rules, your property can only increase, your assessed value can only increase by 3%. If the village is then offsetting that with a 2.6% decrease, they would feel a 0.4% increase in the taxes. So it's really the net difference. So the village is wiping out most of that 3% growth by proposing a 2.6% reduction. Here's our millage rate in perspective. Mayor, you have a great question about what happened during declining value years. That top chart there, the blue line shows you the taxable values. And the manager and I are really pleased with the work we've done on the right-hand side here of the years we've been here. As the blue line goes up, we see an inverse relationship with that orange line, which is the tax rate, going down. On the right is a sample tax bill. As you'll notice, the green line, the Key Biscayne operating budget, that is only 19%, so less than a fifth. That's the money that we're talking about tonight that goes into Key Biscayne, that is spent in Key Biscayne, but it's a small portion of the total tax bill. So sometimes I hear that Key Biscayne is doing a great job in lowering taxes. However, I don't feel any relief in my tax bill. The reason for that is there's another 80% that we don't control, and most of the increase is coming from that other portion of it. So I wanted to highlight that there are other taxing agencies, which is the school board is a big one, 41.6, and the county budget, Miami-Dade County, is 34.5%. So those two alone make up the bulk of a sample property tax bill. This is a sample property tax bill showing at the median taxable value of $884,000 is the median homestead taxable value in Key Biscayne this year. And then on the bottom, benchmarked against some other municipalities where our all-in millage rate, which is now 15.54, that's adding up Key Biscayne's 2.9 with all those other levying authorities, how that compares if your same house was in any of those municipalities.
Can you explain that again? A lot of people don't understand that the 2.9, where that come from.
Sure. So the Key Biscayne operating millage is 2.9. That's the money that comes into the village that we're proposing tonight. That's money that's spent in the village for our police, our fire, our parks, our capital projects. The other millage rates are the ones, the other levying authorities, so the school board, Miami-Dade County, the Okeechobee Basin, the Florida Inland Navigation District. These are all different levying authorities, and if you add all the different millage rates, we get to 15.54. Key Biscayne's 2.9 is only less than 19% of that total millage.
So Aventura pays 2.91 to the fire district, correct?
It's about 2.4. So if you don't run your own municipal fire, the millage rate for fire is about 2.4. So you'd have to add that with their own municipal operating and also school board and county as well. So looking at, I guess, benchmarking against other cities, our total mill rate is a full point now below second place, which is Aventura. And these go as high as, Key Biscayne's 15, and we end at Biscayne Park, which is almost 10 points higher, so significantly higher taxing if you live in Biscayne Park, or even across the bridge, Miami. We're talking about 15 to 20, so about a third higher, which is a significant difference. Also benchmarking against other municipalities, we looked at the valuation growth over these last 5 years. So we had a big boom in property values post-pandemic, and the county average was a 52% increase. Key Biscayne was actually one of the lowest increases of all the municipalities. We were the third lowest of only 32%. Key Biscayne doesn't have a lot of new construction, like someone like a city of Miami would benefit from, and our property values are probably pretty high already going into the pandemic. So we were dealt with the third lowest increase in property value, and yet we've still been able to reduce our millage by 6.7%. If we approve this budget, that 6.7 reduction is reduced by another 2.6. So I think we'll look even more stellar when we redo this chart next year. And so the net growth has been, if we look at a 32% increase in valuation and a 6.7% reduction in tax rate, has been 25.5, and that puts us the lowest once again when benchmarked against all the other municipalities in Miami-Dade County, and even lower than the change in South Florida's CPI. So that measures inflation, a local inflation based on goods that we buy, energy, food items as well. So we're pleased to present that we are, again, the lowest in looking at it this way as well.
But I also want to emphasize, and we strive to be efficient, but we also strive to be effective. So we do deliver outstanding services. We do meet, in most cases, our residents' expectations, and we do take in consideration building for the future as well.
So I want to mention it's not just low tax. I want to mention that we've provided this low tax program without cutting any services. We've actually enhanced our police officers in this period by 4 officers. We've enhanced a fire captain position. We've enhanced our public works department to get more boots on the ground. So it hasn't been low tax on the backs of reducing services. We've been able to enhance them at the same time. So we're pleased to present that we've been able to do both, which is unique these days.
It seems that, like, to observe your slide earlier that talked about routine repair and maintenance, it's actually improved repair and maintenance that has now become routine. That's a good point to highlight.
So that is the end of the presentation. Manager and I are happy to take any questions or discussion.
Yeah, we should hear from our first responders, police and fire, since that's a big part of the budget.
Let's go ahead and roll them back, if you would, and then pop up their slides right before the roll-up. Can you unhide on yours? Yeah, the first two, 10 and 11.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to do all of them. You got to enable editing up top. Do some stretches.
Huh?
Do some stretches. Your pregame warm-ups.
Yeah, I know.
Big series.
Oh, there's Benjamin, excuse me, while we're waiting, are these 2 new positions already included in the budget?
Yeah.
The proposed positions?
Yeah, so if we go to I'll show you real quickly on the initiative slide, the The proposed budget includes both of those positions, so you'll see them highlighted, the
Yeah.
pro supervisor and also
Yeah.
the agenda
Well, in fact,
coordinator.
I
so-
saw that, I'm sorry.
Councilmember, in fact, it includes all those things that are on that
All of them.
spreadsheet.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
so everything, because you see the number at the bottom is 2.9.
Yeah, thank you, I forgot, I had seen that. I had to say that.
Either that, or they were hungry.
Are we taking a break now? Where's everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. Chief?
Good evening, council. As our CFO explained, our police department cost, as you can see on our slide here, 83% of our overall budget is personnel. So that leaves us with about 17% to do our day-to-day business. 5.1% of our services are contractual. Through your graces, the past several years, staff and I have worked with procurement, and we've rewritten several of our contracts in an effort to save money. So although it's gone up a little bit, essentially we have saved on most of our major contracts, including our CAD and RMS, Axon for our body-worn cameras and tasers. Those are some examples. And then operations, maintenance, and repair make up the remaining part of our budget. I believe that we've been extremely effective as an agency. If you read the annual report earlier this year, we were able to reduce crime in the previous year significantly while increasing traffic enforcement, which is something that each of you have asked of our department and our citizens have asked for. I'm available to answer any specific questions that you may have on initiatives and what we're doing. As most of you are aware, staffing continues to be a challenge for us. Hiring has continued to be a challenge. We do have 2 recruits graduating the academy next month, and we have 2 currently out on our streets training. But we do anticipate additional vacancies here in the next few months. So we're working to get those filled. But as you have heard me say to you previously, we are competing against every municipality in Dade County right now. Any questions?
I had a question and can't find it.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't find it. It had to do with, understanding if the position, if your staff now, or are some of your fully staffed, or some of your staff reserve?
So we're not fully staffed. We did just take up are you asking about reserve officers? So we just did take up an initiative, which is something that the manager asked me to look at when I first got here, and we didn't have the workforce. As most of you are aware, we're an accredited agency. There are accreditation standards that govern how we implement a reserve officer program. At the time, we just didn't have retirees that left. We can't just hire a retiree from another agency to come here to be a reserve, which is a volunteer position, because they would have to go through a full field training program. We recently had 2 of our senior officers that completed over 20 years of service with the village that indicated a desire to come back as a reserve officer. And we worked with the manager and my staff to develop policies that are industry standards. And so we did have 2 officers come back as reserve officers, and they're working up to 12 hours a month, or they could go up to 20 if they'd like, to cover our shortfalls and to alleviate our staff, because
So let me make sure I understand. You're saying that those are, they're not getting paid? They are getting paid?
they are not getting paid. Chad is
Let me
researching.
jump into that too. So no, I'm a true believer, particularly if you're going to put a police officer on the street, that we ought to pay them. There is a process to do that. We have to modify an existing ordinance. And then there's a standard wage that you used to pay them. You know, you don't pay benefits, you just pay by hour. And right now the chief and the attorney are working on coming up with that ordinance. We hope to have that, if not October, we'll definitely have November then.
Okay, so of the 4 new people that were hired that you announced, 2 are reserve?
No,
Okay,
we fired 4 that filled our vacancies. I still have vacancies, and the 2 reserves do not go against your sworn allotment. It's
okay.
it's
But
kind of a
you're ex-
bonus.
But you are anticipating some new vacancies coming up, is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, we have a sergeant that's completing their drop program, and we have an officer in the process with another agency.
Okay.
Can you, elaborating on that, so where are you supposed to be, at 42 officers?
40.
40? That's this is what this says here, but you're not there.
We're not there.
You're at 38, 36, or what?
Currently, right now, with the 2 that I have in the academy and the 2 that I have training, I'm at 39. So I have currently 1 vacancy, but I have a sergeant that retires November 1st.
So you'll have 2.
And then I have an officer that whenever they finish the process with the other agency, that would be 3.
But the two academy hires, what is that exactly? When are they coming?
They graduate October 24th.
Okay.
But then, let me be clear. So when we hire and put someone through the academy, it's great because they do count as one of our sworn personnel positions, but they're essentially not a fully single service able-bodied officer for about 1 year because they've been in the academy for almost 5.5 months. Then they got to go through in-house training, and then they got to go through a field training program.
Does that mean that they ride with somebody?
Correct.
Does that that stub period affect our certification?
What do you mean our certification?
Well, the credentialing.
Yeah, so when they're in the academy, they're not a state certified officer. They're completing the state curriculum now. They'll take their state exam, probably most likely the day after their graduation. And then they start a 3-week in-service orientation with us. They have to get certified in a bunch of different things. And then they start their field training program, which is 12 to 16 weeks.
So the average person listening to this is going to say, Chief, how can this be? This is the great place to work. Why can't you fill in those roles?
So, look, I have an officer here right now that is fantastic. We hired him out of the academy, and he's been here 3 years. He's a young officer, and I fully expect him to get hired by the county. I don't see a reason why he's not going to get hired. I brought him in. It's nothing with the village. It's nothing with the department. He just
Nothing
wants
with the chief either?
opportunities. Huh?
Nothing with the chief either?
At least to me, he said no. He just wants opportunities to do different things. He's a young officer.
So is it the lack of excitement, the lack of money?
It's
lack of
not
opportunity for
just lack of
advancement?
opportunity to move around. He wants to do more things. But look, we have other officers that are applying here, but we're competing with Miami-Dade County, who has to hire 800 deputies. We're competing with the city of Miami. We're competing with Miami Beach.
But I was going to ask you on that. I mean, what are the specific challenges that we have? As I know, we're competing. That's great, but and everybody has their own needs and what they want to do with their career. Some of them may want more excitement, other ones may not. Other ones may want better pension. Other ones, but have you honed into us versus, say, Miami, or versus where most of them?
We're never going to be able to compete with Miami or Miami Beach.
On
They're
their
large
salary.
departments. The city of Miami has almost
it the
100
salary?
officers. It's not so much salary. There is salary differences with the bigger agencies.
Right.
But we're a competitive agency, and I think we worked hard in our last collective bargaining agreement to lessen that gap. I believe our officers are compensated well. I think we offer a competitive package here. I think it's a merit of factors. There isn't the interest in the field that there was in the past, so that's an issue that all of us are dealing with across the board. And then the opportunities to move around and grow. But we've been I've hired half of this department in my 4 years here, and we've had great results.
Right.
So I'm not willing to compromise our standards to fill a vacancy. Our staff has done a phenomenal job picking up the shortages when it's had. There's never been an issue with safety on this island. They do a great job working with one another. My staff motivates them, and they know we're trying. We've interviewed over 67 applicants this year.
Right.
It's not lack of effort.
But,
Chief,
okay,
I just want to tell you, I've said this to you before, but I really appreciate that you don't hire just anybody. because who works out here with our kind of community, we need the kind of people that appreciate the community that we are, and that's who you're hiring, and it makes a big difference, because there are a lot of people who just want the power and the authority, and that's really not who we need out here.
And we recognize there are, this goes along to what you were asking, Councilman Vasquez, and what you just stated. There are intricacies to working in a village like Key Biscayne. You know, we are a community-driven police department. We believe it's extremely important to be interactive with the community, and get out and look. There's a unique way of policing here. There is, and I've always said it to the people I speak. I do believe we deliver a high level of concierge policing here. But at the end of the day, don't mistake that they're still police officers and they still confront the same dangers that they do in other communities, albeit maybe not on the daily basis or as frequently as others do. But we have, as we have discussed here, because some of our vulnerabilities on this island, people take advantage of it or try to at least.
Right.
So
I'm going to ask you a question more on the metrics. 38, we got 38, you need 2 more. What did you base the 40 out of? Can you elaborate a little more on that?
So yeah, as we discussed last year with you when we came forward to ask for 2 additional personnel, there's a number of factors that we look at. We look at our calls for service, the amount of cases our detectives are handling, the amount of arrests we make, the traffic stops, and minimum staffing. Because I know our citizens will look at the number 40 and think we have 40, but inevitably in any career field, not just in law enforcement, there are family issues. We have some of those who have health issues, we have FMLA issues, we have those that are having children, and that drives your factors when you're working. When we did our studies last year, and I told you last year when I came to you that I really felt that 40 was the number that we need to be at. We haven't been able to sustain that number or come close to it, and I do believe you would see the difference once we do achieve and fulfill that number, because our detectives we've been able to manage our caseload because we've had a reduction of criminal cases over the summer, and hopefully we can continue that trend. And also our VRO program. You know, we just had a call yesterday of one of our citizens, a well-being check, and, and they went over there, and it was an elderly lady, but they took her sofa out and, provided her with some services that she couldn't have because she didn't have any help. And that's what our VRO program's about, connecting with the community and helping those that don't have the resources that they need. But we haven't been able to fully execute that program. And I think it's important to mention, in light of everything going on in the community, we stay connected with all of our religious leaders. We've contacted every one of our churches. We've spoken to them. We've provided active killer training. We were at St. Agnes yesterday. We did it during Mass. So we're staying connected in discussing these important topics on what's going on.
Right. Safety is paramount. So just thank you for answering that. Thank you.
When you show a surplus at the end of the year in your budget, what does that mean?
So this year was a unique year, as you heard me talk last council meeting. Because of our vacancies, we had a surplus, and that's why we came and we asked, since we attempted to get money from the state, as you heard our representative say earlier. So we took that surplus and bought something that's a critical life safety measure, and we're buying police radios with that extra surplus of money. As most of you are aware, you've come and met with me individually. I meet with our CFO on a quarterly basis and my entire command staff. We review the budget. I take it extremely seriously. I understand the responsibility that you entrust in me and our staff, and it's our goal to manage your money responsibly and efficiently.
Any other questions?
I think you have less questions for the fire chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad, when is the CBA up next?
I think aren't we starting bargaining this year, right?
Yeah.
No,
It'll
but I
hit
think we
next year.
start bargaining though this year, I think. Is the last year. So when will we commence? January. Okay, January, yeah.
Gentlemen, come forward.
What did you do?
I had a rotator cuff surgery. I'd worn it out. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Joe Fernandez, Fire Chief. And since I have one arm, I got Dan with me here as well. Similar to what Chief Souza said, most of our increases for this budget are in the personnel category. There are 40 personnel currently. We have 2 vacancies, total of 40 and 2 civilians, 35 funded positions in the field, on the floor. It's 12, 12, and 11 on one of the shifts. The other, and mainly those increases are contractual increases in the labor force, and then in operations and maintenance. We have the increase, the contractual increase in the Miami contract, the 3% annually. And that pretty much comprises the bulk of the increase for this budget at 3.7% total. I've worked this year along with the manager to work on the fleet and capital situation, and we feel we have that now set up in a way to address the fleet issues we were having before. We should have the additional emergency or spec rescue that we ordered by the end of the month. It may be at the dealer in Deerfield by as early as next week.
Talk a little bit about that. I was listening to you guys talking about getting these vehicles, whether it be fire rescue or the full trucks. What's going on in that supply side? It's obviously getting very, very difficult to order and get these things in. What's going on?
Yeah, the increase, there were varying effects. Now, what the effects are now, there was COVID, there was the change in ecological issues as far as switching the type of diesel requirements over the years. That impacted the heavy truck industry and the medium truck industry that we use. The number of the time period continues to rise. It's now averaging between 3 and 3.5 years, where it used to be sometimes as little as a year and a half, 5, 6 years ago, pre-COVID. So we have had some discussions to look at our fleet replacement and integrate that what's looking like 3 to 3.5 years from the time you commit to a chassis for the build out. So we're moving some of the order dates, if you would, and obviously we'll have to go into getting them approved at council, et cetera. But it truly has become about 3 to 3.5 years now.
So, like in the private sector, should we be setting aside that money to say, okay, we need to replace these vehicles and we need to put a certain amount of money away each year in order to get there?
I think so, and the manager has guided us in the past year through a focus on the fleet status, and some of the equipment had exceeded their usable life, and we have pinned that down a little more tightly now. And I think for the fire fleet, the 2 large trucks, the engine and the ladder, may need to be moved forward or sooner, about a year, I think, is the guess.
In those cases, you're talking about 5 years plus to get a new one?
I would say 3.5 to 4.
But those are on the fire rescue on the
big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still the same?
Yeah, they're about the same.
I thought it was closer to 5 years.
No, even those, if you go back 5 years ago or 6 years ago, you could get those within a year and a half. But we use medium duty trucks for what you would call our ambulances, because they're not ambulances. You have fire equipment on there, cross-trained people and all the fire equipment they carry as well. So many years ago, we had to switch because we would wear out the brakes and everything else. We went to medium duty chassis, and then the fire trucks are actually heavy duty chassis, but they kind of are built in the same type plants. So medium and heavy duty trucks is what we use. They're not ambulances for what we call rescues, because we carry a lot more equipment to be a dual service provider.
On the personnel side, are you good at 40?
Well, I think at 40, we have 12, 12, and 11, so there's one shift that's actually light. We rely on overtime to a great degree, but the minimum staffing that 12 supports is the 8 that we actually have on duty. It's a little bit of an elusive model, but the industry standard is a 4.3 staffing factor. So for every 24-hour position, you need 4.3 employees. If you look at the cities in Dade, the factor varies from, we're the lowest. We staff it at roughly 4.2. Some of the other municipalities as high as 4.7. There's a little variance depending on the ranks as you get into larger departments. Sometimes the factor varies across the different ranks, but you come up with an average number nationally for a 24-hour operation with a 3-shift schedule, and it's about 4.3 bodies per position. So, and that accounts for, as a little bit different than the police industry, but it accounts for all the things that occur. We already work more hours than the typical FLSA structure, but it's allowed. That's still like 48. Things that are affecting us are we're about in the middle of the pay range, but again, issues like upward mobility, specialty teams, larger department, things like that, that's where a lot of the younger employees want to go other places, but we've used since the inception of this department a hybridized employment base to where we hire tenured employees and young employees, and that kind of mitigates the turnstile effect that we might have if we had all young employees or first career, put it that way. I'll say young, and that helps. But I think as Miami continues to get busier, we have an ideal situation with them. We have automatic aid with them, but they'll continue to get busier, and we do a great job on our 1 and 2 unit responses, 1 call, 2 calls, but satisfying the number for an actual fire incident. We can't do better than the relationship we have with the city of Miami, but there is a delay for them to get over here if there is a working incident.
And you also mentioned today when we were talking at the event this morning that our relationship with Miami is that they are backup. I think that's what you said, and that they are very much aware of whether we're meeting our staffing requirements. Can you explain that a little bit better? Because I think that's important.
So, and if you look at Dade and Broward as an example, mutual aid and automatic aid, we enjoy automatic aid with the city of Miami, which is when the call goes in, it's their call, just like our call is their call. So when departments are a little dissimilar, you operate on mutual aid. Mutual aid has more of a delay. You ask the other department for assistance, and then they tell you if they can or they can't. It's called out after you receive the call. So we're in the ideal posture with Miami, but we do have to maintain a focus on keeping a good neighbor relationship. So that means keeping our fleet at the level that it is so that we don't overtax them, keeping our staffing at a level that keeps some reciprocity so that what we send to a call is similar to what they're sending. Otherwise, they're inheriting our risk at a different level. So that's where we continue to need to focus on the number and plan for the future. As they get busier, we have to be able to kind of pull ourselves up as well. And I think those are discussions we can have in the future. We do a great job, and the national standard to deal with a 2,000 square foot house fire, which is the model scientifically based, created by FEMA and NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, uses that model, and it tells you how many firefighters you need before the fire flashes over in 13 minutes, because you have to do X amount of concurrent tasks in a number of minutes. So that's how we arrive at those minimum staffing levels within the fire service, as Chief Sousa was talking about how you determine it from a policing side. And we come at it from a science-based approach of the time for either a medical patient or, in the case of a fire, getting to the fire before it fully evolves and you can't save lives or the structure and it starts affecting the adjacent structure. So we use those national standards and the accreditation standards and keep trying to strive for a working number that's effective.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's understandable and a very quick delivery, but.
Are we answering city calls as well?
That's a very good question. And the departments that, we're kind of an anomaly. We occasionally help the city, but it's much more, they provide us the service. In most places that enjoy automatic aid, there's a very similar reciprocity. When there's a very dissimilar situation, the best you can shoot for is mutual aid, which has much more of a delay. So we really enjoy a very high efficiency and dollar value for what we get with the city, and that's part of the reason it's so important to maintain that relationship. And geographically, they are the only department that can offer us the type of response in the time that makes a difference because of the geographic issue.
The surplus that you show is that you've got a lot of new and young officers. Is that has changed your personnel costs?
I think most of the personnel increases were actually built in the contractual increases. And then we did have some testing for promotions after vacancies occurred last year. So there was promotional testing, and then there was increases in contractual and cost of living raises. If I answered that to your satisfaction.
We'll come back. Councilman Mike Bracken, I hear you're interested in jumping in here.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Just circling back to the capital side, Chief, Joe asked you about the replacement of the trucks. Are you currently allocating funds on the side for these replacement vehicles? So are we putting away $500,000 a year, or how are we going about that?
I missed the tail end of the question. I believe the answer is.
So, Councilmember, I think you're asking the question about the 3 trucks, and have we allocated the funding for that?
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Those are in fact in the capital plan. They're part of the rollover portion of the capital plan.
Encumbered, yeah. Yeah, we have the 2 rescues that were previously ordered, and then the additional rescue, which will be here soon. Those 3 were all funded, and we also ordered 2 light fleet vehicles and have another one to add to the replacement for next year. Councilman.
Sir, going back, talking about the ladder truck, you said it's a 5-year replacement, and you said that our current ladder truck would have to move forward. So are we allocating funds to replace that ladder truck at present or not?
Yeah, we have them. We keep like a Gantt chart on following the village's replacement policy and the usable life for those type of vehicles, and we have them in the CIP. The only thing we haven't done is the adjustment for those, possibly to move them up a year. It's the engine and the aerial, but they're still downrange. They're not immediately upon us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Other questions?
I do want to state, Mr. Mayor, in response to Councilman Bracken, more generically than just specifically about these trucks, there is, as backup slides, as you have seen, there is the full capital plan that goes from 2027 to 2031, and you can find those items in that capital plan.
Okay, what is the wish of the board?
Mr. Mayor, we need to hold a public hearing.
Yeah, but I'm asking my colleagues, what other areas you want to delve into?
Mr. Mayor, at some point I have a motion that I'm going to want to make, and I don't know when would be the appropriate time to do that.
Okay. You guys have any other areas that you want to? Okay.
I'm good.
Let's do a quick overview of the proposed new initiatives and see if we have agreement on these or not.
1, 2, and 3 are easy.
Is this Mr. Manager? You want Colleen or who is?
These are they. Majority of them are capital, so yeah, if you want to get up there, Colleen, obviously I can address any of the personnel questions.
Does this overlap with the sheet in the printout that's the proposed CIP?
They're all
Does, yeah.
synchronized, yes.
These are all of the new money coming in, plus there's 2 positions that are highlighted in yellow that aren't in the capital program. Those are from the operating budget.
Okay.
Can you take us through some of these initiatives that are here?
Sure. Would like me to start at the top? I think we're all in agreement that streetlights are
Yes.
important. So that would be sort of the implementation of a phase 1 of the streetlights assessment, which is ongoing currently. The Connect Community Center to the sewer system, we're currently working with a firm to help us determine if we can do that. It involves surveying and making sure we have the kind of slope we need to eliminate the grinder pump situation we have in the community center. It's a big issue we have down there. The generator at the community center is currently not working, so that's a top priority, especially when we get our power outages and there's people in there. God forbid someone's in an elevator. So that's a top priority as well.
You've seen some HVAC problems lately. What's going on with that?
We constantly have HVAC problems. I think just today we had HVAC issue in the police department. But these 2 new HVACs would be for the community center specifically. That's an ongoing maintenance issue.
Which ones? What?
There's the HVACs are actually not new money; they're rollover money. Sorry,
Okay.
I apologize. Yeah.
So everything that you're looking at here is new money, whether we want to spend
The
new
new
money.
correct.
And you have another sheet that would tell the average reader here that this one, what's already been approved and it's in the pipeline, so to speak, to get done.
Yes, that would be mostly the rollover side of that capital program. That would be the continuing projects. So when you look at the slide that shows the capital program, that far left column right next to the names is the roll forward dollars. And then it followed by general fund. And then we have our enterprise and stormwater fund. And then we have the
Let me
loan
ask
dollars.
you a general question here. If the average person that looks and says, you can't possibly be on top of all these projects here, what's the response?
It is a heavy lift, but we do have a plan to outsource some of the project management capabilities to be able to get this done. Because what we've noticed is that there are some major repair, maintenance, rehab things that are hitting our capital program and need to be done, like the community center generator, like the sewer connection for the community center as well. So it's stuff that needs to happen, and we recognize that we do have a capacity limitation with just our staff, and we've created a whole project management program using some continuing services consultants to help us with that.
Quick question, if I may.
Yes.
You have them they have them prioritized.
Yes.
So I guess if we were to say, maybe you'll get to 5, maybe you get to the end of 4. Those are
Sure,
the
sure.
things you can do, right? What would be that? Would it make sense to move it to next year?
That could make sense if you wanted to push some of the ones that are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the lower priority ones can be squeezed to next year. I think the community center generator one is on the lower priority end though, and I would say that probably needs to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to be reasonable, because I know you guys are very busy and there's a lot of stuff that's happening, and it's a very noble, very ambitious plan.
But let's, I also want to be clear though, that 9 of those projects, quote unquote, projects this year are actually purchases.
Correct. I'm sorry?
9 of those are actually purchases this
Right.
year.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna see a lot of
Recognizing exactly
those.
what you've
Yeah.
said is that, you know, okay, we need to just focus on projects that we're working on.
Mhm.
Some of them are actually funding existing
Yeah.
projects, like some additional money for the streetlights.
Right.
That's already an ongoing project, so that's
So,
not. an
so that's a
additional
good question. Why wouldn't the purchases be part of their individual budgets?
If they're capital assets, they belong in the capital program. So vehicles would be in the capital program, the air packs, the
So
cardiac
it's an
monitors.
asset that has a life
value.
longer than what, 3 years,
7
5 years?
Longer than 7 years. It's usually 7-year lifespan or more than $50,000 in expense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, on slide number 27, what I was asking about before on the roll forward, my understanding is those are projects that have been proved, but not all that money. We don't necessarily, not committed to going forward on them yet because we're not under contract with them. So there's some we are and some we're not.
Definitely, yes,
You're
correct.
waiting for the breakdown
Definitely
of the
some we
encumbered.
are.
And
And
I
that's
only-
a great idea to separate that out.
Right, and I only bring that up because the elbow room here is not only on these new initiatives, it also includes possibly looking at some of those.
roll forward.
Correct. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
We can add another column or somehow separate those out by color or something. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, some of the low priorities that are carried forward are actually in process.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, the Beatty is an example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Benjamin, you mentioned you'd have a breakout of the encumbered funds. Yes, when will you have that? When can we expect that?
I mean, I
We
have
can add
that.
that to you next week.
Yeah.
Great. That's what you were asking for.
right, because that
Actually,
gives
I'll-
us a fuller picture.
100%.
Yeah. A lot of times that roll forward amount is based off of whatever the current encumbered is remaining. So, and some of it is we haven't encumbered it yet at all. So it's a good distinction to have.
And then there is as simple as encumbered or unencumbered, but there is as we're working through a process to become encumbered as
Right,
well.
right.
So
We're in
there's-
procurement.
There's kind of 3 categories, and we'll
Right.
kind of identify that.
Right.
You know, one is just sitting there, not moving.
Right.
One is moving forward, just about to bring it to council to be encumbered, and then obviously the next one is encumbered. So
Can you walk us through just a little bit the criteria of what you went through to decide that maybe low priority number 5 items made it to this list for funding immediately? I understand the generator. Okay,
Right.
but there's quite a few low priority items that you've brought forward here. Just curious on what that criteria is. How do you look at that? How do you bring it forward?
When you're talking about low priority items, you're talking about the left side
Yeah,
of
so you have
this
4s
page.
and 5s that you're bringing
Yeah.
forward for right now, right?
Right. Mhm.
But there's certainly, if you go back to the CIP, there's some that are 2s and 3s that maybe would
Mhm.
be better pushed forward. Is it a combination of just price, timing?
Yeah.
But it's also
Need.
also realize that we have a 10 scale.
It's a
on
different
10. No,
prioritization.
I get it. Right. So 5
Yeah.
is not.
I get it.
Low. It's medium.
Right.
I just want to make there are some.
Yeah.
We use a 10 scale.
Correct.
My understanding, which I'd like to encapsulate to make sure that I'm correct, these are all projects that have, so to speak, made the cut. But for example, to use a carry forward that's been carried forward for years is the beach park improvements.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a low priority because it's not urgent to happen next week.
Low priority, right.
But it's been a priority in the sense of it, being an aspiration that we'd like to achieve.
And I think as time goes on, facilities deteriorate more and more, and then they become more urgent. And they
Like
might,
the generator.
like the generator or the roofs on the bathrooms in the beach park. So there's time that plays a factor in that too.
And this does, in a way, not in the long term, because Councilman Bracken and I had this conversation, not in the long term, as I think he would love to see, but it does in the short term begin to set aside money for things that we know have to happen. Right? For instance, the fire trucks there, the rescue trucks, excuse me, for $1.2 million. That money has been there for 2 years. Right. Because it's taken that long for us to get them built, as you heard the chief say. So we are looking forward as much as we can. When the money is available, we're putting against that asset in order to either purchase it or improve it.
For presentation for later, I think it's good to differentiate these things. And also the slide 23, the new stuff, overlaps with some of the carry forwards.
It
And also
does.
includes, as you mentioned, a couple of items that are not capital in nature. So I think breaking all that out, so it's, they're each discrete, that would help us with our comprehension.
Yeah, I think
Even
that's
to
a
your
good
point
idea.
that some of these are purchases.
We could put a little P in there or something. Well, P is
Yeah.
project too. We'll have to come up with something. That, yeah, I know what you're saying. I actually thought about that, and I did think PP, and I didn't know what to go. So, no. Purchase and project. I got you. P
Yeah.
or PR.
So for example, and they're side by side on the sheet. Replace fitness equipment in community center versus contribute to Virginia Key athletic fields planning and design. I mean, we've been looking for fields for
40 years.
40 years. So yeah, if I'm not in there pumping iron, I guess I don't see that need as big as something that has been a huge problem for us for years. So I would not put the same, would not be a 5 in my category, even though it's a 50,000 item.
But broken equipment could be a safety issue also.
And again,
You don't
there's
want
a
to be on a
time.
treadmill and that thing break.
Yeah,
on you,
there's a
right?
time horizon to that too. We can order equipment immediately and have that issue fixed immediately, and then the Virginia Key contribution is a longer term thing. It's not necessarily one or the other either. That's up to your discretion, and you can obviously reorder the priority as you see fit. This was our first pass at it.
I like it.
The Virginia Key is an evergreen priority, but it seems that the stars are aligning differently than in the past. And I think we ought to focus on that with fierceness.
Yep.
I think you're right.
Can you talk a little in general so people out there might not be familiar what this is?
So there are a couple options on Virginia Key. One is the larger project, which, for lack of a better word, it's the old landfill, 118, 120 acres. That is a landfill which was used by the county. They're going to cap it and then return it to the city of Miami in order to build a park. That has taken much longer than anyone expected. I don't want to count the number of years. It goes back to days you were on the VCAB, and probably before that. So we have now looked at an alternative location, which is just east of the water sewer plant. And if you all are familiar with Virginia Key, just north of the outdoor rec center and just south of the bicycle track up there to the north, there is a slice that just goes to the east of the wastewater plant. There are actually locations we could put 2.5 fields. We're not looking about 2.5 fields. We're willing to go in right now, City of Miami, to build with them one of those fields. So we're working through that process right now. As you know, City of Miami is going through a transition. They do have an election this year. So we're going to pursue that, but also understand that, dynamics are changing a little bit, hopefully in ways that'll move this even faster.
And I would add to that, this is something that we've gotten used to doing, is working with other people's land. We do that at St. Agnes. We do that at the K8. So this is
so at Mast as well.
At Mast also. So this is just another way that we have to approach this problem, a problem that we can't seem to solve within our own borders. So we've had to go outside. Never gotten a whole lot of relief at Crandon, and we can't get relief at the state park. So Virginia Key is the only other option, and that's why we need to look at it.
Correct.
There may be one other option, but I'm not going to speak it aloud at this moment.
Okay, why don't you talk to us about why you think there's a need for the park supervisor slot, or if you want, Mr. Hoffberth.
Well, I'll have Todd come up, but let me do the introduction, and I'll turn it over to him. As you know, Mr. Mayor, you and I get quite a bit of calls about what goes in our parks, what goes in our beach, what goes on in our beaches. Not just from a safety and security perspective, but also the maintenance status, where it is, where it should be. Also, how do we optimize the programming and operations of those facilities? You know, I frequently go around our village, and I think, you know, Village Green is fantastic, Paradise Park is fantastic, but I really do think that we have an opportunity to bring the status of our parks, the capability of our parks to a higher level, and that's one of the things that we'd like to do. I'll turn it over to Todd if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. I think adding to what the manager said, this person will also be working nights and frequently on the weekends. And as you know, that's when you've sent me pictures. When you've been here on the weekend, other people send me pictures. A lot is going on in the nights and the weekends here. And it's where most of our staff is not here. Our athletic staff is here, but they're engaged in the programming. The weekends, a lot happens. Our beach park is full. We have games on all our facilities. It goes back to some of those partners that you mentioned earlier. Make sure that the St. Agnes field is cleaned up. Everything's good. Make sure that the Mast Academy is locked up. Go over to the K8. Make sure that facility is in the condition it needs to be. So there's just a lot that happens, and it would be a great value add, and it's probably the most frequent, the solution to the most frequent request we get.
What is the
Scope of work?
yeah?
Like the job description exactly. Can you give us a little more detail on that?
Sure. Yeah, you want to go to it?
First, it's in there. Where is it? Why is it not popping up? Are we hidden? Yeah, I'll unhide it there.
24.
Yeah, it's slide 24, right after that.
There you go. Supervises parks and beach maintenance operations and safety, oversees maintenance and repairs of park facilities, grounds, upkeeps athletics, fields and courts, landscaping and irrigation system, coordinates park activities, usage to ensure compliance with rules and regulations, engages with the public, inquires, addresses inquiries and concerns, facilitating a welcoming and safe, enjoyable environment for all park visitors. So, and we're also going to be launching a park rental policy to address the beach park mainly. And whenever you rent a park, you need to have somebody that can go out there if there's an issue when somebody's paying and renting that facility. And right now, we don't have somebody available to do that. We're on everybody in the community center is occupied. Like I said, everybody in the athletics is occupied. We don't have a body that would be available and have the skill and knowledge to, if a faucet's leaking, go fix it, do the simple maintenance that needs to take place on the nights, weeks, and weekends.
Sorry.
You don't have this person supervising any of the our big contract with soccer or for field hockey or whatever.
I mean, they'll obviously be watching what's taking place. They would be able to resolve disputes. They'll know all the trainers, where they're supposed to be, their hours and their policies. They'll know that, this trainer's supposed to be here. Hey, wait a minute, that person doesn't have a permit. They're training in the park. Let me tell that person that without a permit, they can't train in the park. So there's just a myriad of things that they'll be doing throughout their shift.
With all this engagement with the public, is there a plan for any type of special training with regards to either safety, first aid, and or ADA?
Sure. But those would be requirements for this person, AED, because they're gonna be out and about and have their vehicle equipped with a lot of that equipment, so when they're on site, they're able to address if needed.
Answering the question of the ADA equipment to the beach and all that, tell us what's happened with that, and where is it at right now? Is that somebody's responsibility at present?
But the chair's been delivered. We just need to build it. We have a policy recommendation that I need to go through the manager on how it's going to be operated, and how people can utilize it, and then we'll put that into effect and make it available to the public.
How was it used before, to your recollection?
Before, it's gonna be similar where it was locked up. The person comes in, turns in an ID, given the key, returns the key, and is given back their ID. We actually have a spreadsheet of how it's done in other municipalities with it. That's the most frequent operational method for deploying it. But I can share that with the manager, and he can evaluate and see which standard operating procedure he thinks is best.
Obviously take some input from the Disability Advisory Board as well.
Does that include a little runway to get out to the beach?
As of yet, no. We've had the chair before. We had the chair before without the runway. We're starting with the chair, but that doesn't mean that's where we're ending.
Does the chair traverse the sand?
Yes, sir.
So, sorry, I was in the back quickly. You mentioned that this was a position, if I understood it correctly, also to overflow into the weekend?
Yes.
Is it for the weekend, or is it just to provide additional support?
They will be working weekends, yes, and evenings.
What's changed from the past?
Well, I mean, nothing's changed. Things have grown. There's more happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the number of kids we have in athletics, the number of programs we have going are continually growing. Our parks are very popular.
No, I get all that, but more than general terms, I mean, do we have any specific metrics? Do we know, can we say that we have 200 kids more, 100 kids more over the past 5 years? That's what I'm kind of looking at.
On kids in athletics, I do have the metrics on that.
In a position like this?
Yeah, we went from, I think in 15 years, it was 400 to over 2,000.
Okay, well, that's a significant increase.
Yeah. I think
That's compelling.
Yeah.
How many of those are children that don't live on the Key?
It's low, and it's even lower now, thanks to a policy that the Village Council passed after a recommendation from the Village Athletics Advisory Board. So 10 and under, you have to be a resident. And
age what? 10 and under?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so what that does is it has a more long-term impact than just the age. By the time a child's age, he's 10, he's played sports for a couple years. And if he couldn't play here, he's probably played in another program, and his trajectory will be probably to continue in that other program. We do have some people join when they're able in the older age groups. You do recall we do have a residents-only registration period. So preferential registration is always given to the residents. I'll give you an example. The most recent registration we had was volleyball. I think we had 3. I think we had a couple in softball, a couple in baseball. I haven't run, I think flag football, it's a handful. And I think it's that under 10 restriction that has caused that.
I have a question for you, and that is, when I was talking to you about not prioritizing soccer so much and offering more of other sports and more field space, you said to me, our scheduling of the fields has not changed in years. If, I don't want to misquote you, but
No,
that's how I understood you to say.
There was a little horse trading between sports,
Right.
but basically, as the manager, as the mayor indicated earlier, we're at capacity. And as we were
Right.
talking, we're at capacity with our fields and our sports
But we've
programs.
been there for a long time, so I'm just trying to figure out the increase in need. You're saying there's so many, there's 2,000 students, or whatever you said, how many participants there were. There've been a lot of participants for a long time, and the fields are currently scheduled. So I'm not sure that I understand what's new, what the newness of this need is. I'm not sure if I'm asking my question clearly.
You're asking about the position?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of Murphy's Law. It seems that when things happen, when things break, and when they need to be addressed, are frequently on the nights and the weekends. This is a service enhancement. This is above and beyond where we've been in the past, and something that we think is needed for the community, for the residents, for the park attendees, for our athletic program participants.
Because this isn't just about the athletics, it's about the full usage of our parks and our beach and so forth.
When you say that there's a lot going on, what do you mean? In terms of athletic activity, or a lot of issues with misuse of the park and dogs and whatever? Or are you referring to all of that?
Everything. Yeah, yes, before we didn't have a dog park, now we have a dog park. Does things happen in the dog park that need to be addressed? Frequently. It's something I get calls about often.
Fire ants.
Fire ants,
Okay,
Asian
so
needle
this,
ants.
so this is my question.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is my question about that, because as I've read this, it seems to me that so much of that should fall to Public Works, and the other part of it should fall to police. And that if you may need help, but from my vantage point, that's not the position where more help is needed.
I understand
Even though I'm not in your shoes.
I know, I understand, but we're looking for somebody with that level of customer service that is not a law enforcement engagement. This is well before that. This is to solve the problem so everybody at the park or the playground doesn't have to call the police, doesn't have to call Public Works, and the issue can be addressed preemptively. So that's exactly their role, is so those departments who won't be able to address it in Public Works at that time, and we don't want a minor issue that could be addressed to turn into an issue where a law enforcement officer has to be called.
If I could follow up. So, but to Nancy's question, if a sprinkler head gets hit or something and it's spitting out water, again, isn't that more of a Public Works issue than a Parks guy?
But if it happens, I'll give you an example. What happens, I think anybody who's been to the Village Green seen it, sometimes the Village Green fountain will overflow. The
Right.
fountain in the center. Something will happen, the wind meter will stop working. That's happened 8 o'clock at night, the field starts to flood. This is somebody who can go over there. He's not gonna fix the fountain, he's gonna turn off
the water.
Turn off the water. He's not gonna have the level to get in there and actually fix the issue, but solve the problem
Okay.
on the time, at the time that it's needed. Report that to Chris and I, who then Chris will do what he does and get the fountain fixed.
I guess from it would be interesting to know what has been the cost of running these current issues today without that help versus what it might look like by having this asset, by having this resource.
Sure.
The other part is when I think about data, you mentioned there's more kids using the field, programming, sports. Is there a way to quantify this? Like, for example, anecdotally speaking, I see many more people now using the gazebo for parties in the park now that it's been fixed, now that it's been upgraded, now that it has lights. And what ends up happening is most of those people don't pick up after themselves. and it happens in the evening. And I've been there where I'm late at night or early in the morning and the place is a disaster. And certainly your staff isn't around to see it until the very next morning.
Exactly.
So that's something, it'd be interesting to see what kind of issues you're really experiencing so we can get our head wrapped around Councilmember Stoner's question about, sorry, about what has changed. Why do we need this person today, but we didn't need him maybe 3 years ago? I might argue and say, maybe we did need this person 3 years ago, but now we need him even more. Because there's this extra usage.
I think we did need him 3 years ago.
I'm of that opinion as well, because to Todd's point, there was a point in time where I was sending him pictures almost daily. And it was because I was having these 5 a.m. walks and seeing so much. And I wondered, man, how am I the one seeing this?
So much of what you said is true because it's unscheduled activities, some often of which we can't predict. We can't predict that somebody is going to have a birthday party. We can't predict that a bunch of people are going to go to the farmer's market and decide to eat all their food in the village green.
I've seen the trash cans filled to the top on a
Exactly.
Saturday. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Here's where I have a little
Sure.
issue, because it reminds me of something like property management or like any type of where you have a specific need and you need to call somebody to do something. That's perfectly fine. But where I'm having a hard time understanding is why do we need a dedicated full-time person to handle, and I'm not by any way, shape, I'm just using it as an example.
Absolutely.
Not undermining it at all, I'm just saying, but to turn off a faucet, let's just say. I'm just thinking, is there a better way, perhaps, to have an on-call service that handles things during the weekend or does things that you're mentioning that could handle and fills in those voids as opposed to having a person sitting down waiting for things to happen? And I'm not saying that's the case, but that's how I feel like it's coming.
Question, and I think, look, we have the on-call capability. I mean, that we have quite a bit of on-call capability, and I think what we're not getting is the eyes on the ability to respond immediately. We have had increased usage in our parks, increased misuse in our parks, unfortunately. We do have more programming. We even have the opportunity of potentially more programming that we don't have.
Right, or could it be somebody that we could use for other positions? Like we're looking for an ADA, there was just a bunch of people a minute ago talking about an ADA coordinator. I don't know if it relates or not, but I'm just saying, could we maximize the value of the investment? Because at the end of the day, an employee comes with other components as well, as we all know, right? So not to say that we don't need it, not to say that we didn't need it in the past, but perhaps we can get a twofer on this one, hire somebody to help us with the ADA component, help maybe finance it through some federal funding. I don't know if there's federal funding for ADA employees. I was going to mention that. And maybe reduce this. It's just an idea. Think about it.
Okay.
No, we will.
No, I'm not trying to manage.
If there is one thing
operation
that
here.
you probably recognize is that, in our Parks and Rec department, they are all, what do you call those, Swiss Army knives, right? Each one of them probably has about 4 or 5 different jobs. Perhaps we can look at that and look through the entire structure and figure out what makes sense.
I mean, you
This
need
type
somebody
of this type of person and the skills that we would want would probably not make a good, disabilities coordinator. But that doesn't mean someone else might not be able to do it because this guy is relieving that person's duties, right? So that's maybe something that Todd and I can look at to see if we can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it ensures compliance with rules and regulations.
They'll without a doubt do the outdoor physical.
Right, I mean, so somebody that could do that and it's interested in, I don't know, you guys figure it out, not here to micromanage anybody, just kind of saying that before we think of a full-time position to cover sporadic needs throughout, or if you truly have a pressure that you really got to have somebody there, then come to us and let us know who else is staying over the weekend, and if you really have people that you're already putting full-time to handle these issues. If that's not the case, then maybe we're looking at just an on-call position to support it. And if we can't do an on-call, then let's just try to do a twofer on it. Bring somebody that has a double capacity, maybe wears 2 or 3 hats. It's just a thought.
What I've been hearing.
Sorry, go ahead.
What I've been hearing and taking away is a little bit different. What I'm taken away from this is experience teaches us to recognize where there are not sporadic faucets that need to be turned off, but instances where service standard or the quality of experience in the parks is subject to degradation because of just what happens. So I'm not sure that the driver that I'm hearing is a bump up in usage, but rather just the observed experience of what happens over the weekends.
Yeah, and certainly.
I think I would say yes to both, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because we're talking a little bit about reactive stuff here, but really there's a possibility to be more proactive, really, to upgrade that level of service.
I was gonna say, that's the whole.
That is a different context.
And I think
They're
we all,
both. I think they're both. I think
That's
it's
a very
little bit
different
both.
context.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Not to mention the hours that this person would be covering, which are hours we have no coverage.
We're talking about janitorial services here, it sounds like. You've got to have someone going through and cleaning up garbage. I understand garbage is left and it's inexcusable, but you're talking about someone going through and cleaning up after the
That's
mess.
just, a small part after hours.
Yeah, that's part of it,
Yeah.
making sure that all the, especially of our shared use facilities, those are our very important partners, Mast Academy, the K-8, and St. Agnes. When they return to their facilities, we want to make sure the gates are locked, the field is clean, the goals are put away. I mean, that's just one
Well,
example.
but that really kind of goes back to what Fernando was asking. Is this going to be a nights and weekend person?
Yes, that's what we're,
That is the position?
yes.
That's what they're saying.
well, it's gonna be, it's gonna be. as
So,
much-
but it's a full-time position, so how do we get full-time position from nights and weekends? Do we, I mean, I don't know, is that enough hours to?
It's not just nights and weekends. They will be working nights and weekends, but there'll be plenty for them to do on other hours. I mean, I think, you know, and I hear this question quite a bit, or comment, not just a question. Do we really believe the parks in our village are at the level that our residents expect our parks to be?
I don't think
And I think the answer is no, we don't. And I think this person is to come on board and help us get the parks to what I think our residents want them to be. I mean, our Village Green and Paradise Park, I think they're premier parks. The other ones, I think, could use some work.
I also have concerns about, and I kind of know what you're talking about, someone to intervene before altercations rise to the level of needing police. But we also have to be careful about that because people don't respond well to people who present themselves as having authority that aren't police.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't represent yourself as law enforcement.
No, I'm not suggesting that they would, I'm just saying.
I can tell you how many, it's very frequent that I get called out to the dog park because there's a disagreement. Somebody is about to call the police. They'll call me and we can de-escalate it.
Or on the soccer field.
Yes, or in the same.
Come on.
But
Happens
yeah,
all
I
the
mean,
time.
and also this person's gonna be out there to, people will see that it's gonna be in a uniform. They're gonna know who they are and they're gonna say, hey, you know, this piece of playground equipment isn't working right. Okay, adds that to the list. So it's also a visible village representative out there interacting with people, showing that we care about the parks and we care about their experience in them.
Okay. I think we beat that one up pretty good.
I believe Councilmember Bracken has a question.
Yes. Mike Bracken,
I just
Front
wanted to
center.
support Todd. I wanted to support Todd on the issue. I think he needs the people. I think the village beach park is in really bad shape, and I think it needs greater level of supervision.
okay. Thank you very much for your input. Okay,
You want to talk about the records manager?
okay, yes, that's a good idea.
Someone can change that. Where's my, I need to unhide so we can pull that out of the slide.
Be right back.
Council members? Sorry. I wanted to, if I could take you back to last year when Vice Mayor McCormick worked with me in looking into public records and the clerk's office, and that she let you all know that we would need to look in the future for someone to be a records coordinator for the clerk's office, and it is needed, and it is, I saw there is a priority 5, but for the clerk's office, it's priority 1.
How many records, how much time does the production of records requests take?
It depends on the records request, but if you just say by a number of how many records requests, there could be 10 records requests within one records request, and they could be very complex over a long time period, involve many departments. They could be, simple or extremely complex, and we're onboarding now Just FOIA, which will help with the management of that. But also, I hear from other clerks that what happens is when it's on the website and it's a little more accessible and easier to make a public records request, what happens actually is your public records requests increase. And so that is what is very concerning for the clerk's office, that we do need the public records software, and then it's going to grow even more. And so we really need assistance.
What
with
you're
that.
saying is that once, just to understand, once we start putting stuff on the website, all the records and everything, people see it and then they want, I want an additional record of that, I want this. And yeah,
It makes it
that makes
more
sense.
accessible.
Right, of
which
course.
we're trying to be accessible and make it easier, but then they increase. And
Right. Well, we could certainly do better in putting all the records into the website.
We
I look at
do,
the
we do.
Miami
We put-
Beach website and you look at what they have all the letters to the commissions, they keep all the records of all the committees, everything's there.
which we do. We put all our
yeah.
resolutions, ordinances, minutes, contracts. They put, finance puts a whole bunch of other, but it's
Right. Right, but that in itself will trigger additional requests, it makes sense.
The driver is not record keeping its response to requests.
that is my priority.
Do we
Yes,
charge for that? Is there a charge?
we do not.
You're limited by state law.
Right, I just didn't know if there was.
There should be a charge. I
So
think.
if the request requires extensive use of technology or resources, which underneath the state law is if it's exceeding 15 minutes of, our staff time, you can charge for the time at the lowest rate of the lowest employee rate that can do the job. Our rule, though, I don't think we actually give people an hour, I believe, right, Jocelyn?
We say 30 minutes, but we do more.
Yeah,
and
so
we,
we
and
don't
we
stick
don't
to
charge.
like the 15 minutes and we're gonna charge, but we're a little more flexible, but that's the general rule, so.
So we start charging after 1 hour.
I think Jocelyn says 30 minutes, right? Is that what
30
she said?
minutes, but
It's liberal.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah, so, so what happens is when we get a request that may, result in an extensive use of resources, or alternatively, sometimes it's a request that results in, extensive redacting for, confidential or exempt information. We do require a deposit, and, Jocelyn works with them, and then, that's how we are compensated for
it's a
that.
little labor intensive to how many people does it involve? What is their rate? Gather it all together, send it to the requester, ask for 50% deposit.
Justin,
You
what's
know,
the
it's-
average turnaround for, I don't know.
I don't
it's
have
kind
an
of
average
ambiguous.
turnaround.
Yeah, I figured I'd
don't
be
have
asking.
that.
But yeah.
Does it make any difference financially for us if we were to adopt a more strict charging policy now that we're expecting the number of requests to increase, that so that we can recoup some of the time? Or
Well,
is it
as the mayor said, it's
Negligible.
set by state law on when we can charge. I mean, going from 30 minutes to 15 is not going to make a big difference.
But if Jocelyn's saying she's, giving an hour, and I understand you want to be generous, but
Right, right.
when the requests start to become burdensome and taken away from other responsibilities, I know we have to produce the records, but we're also having to hire another person to help with that.
It's not the 1 hour ones that are hurting us. It's the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hour ones that are hurting us. So, the difference between half an hour and hour, that's might
What
be
I'm
because
saying is, are we charging for that?
we are, yes. So when it gets significant, we do. And, she frequently has some very large ones. And when she hits 8, 9, and it's not just her, it's also
Right.
staff who has to provide support. That's where, without a doubt, we're charging for those.
Is this going to include I think it's not. Can this in person also produce the records that are requested from the police department so that we get coverage of?
I believe there is very specific rules and regulations for that. I'm not sure if Chief is here. Yes, but they do that, and they do it very effectively. They are staffed to do that. They're very taxed to do that. But if you want to add to that, Chief.
Yeah, so we get a large amount of requests from the clerk. The part that I do want to add that the manager said that is extremely taxing is body worn camera.
It's what?
Body worn camera footage.
Oh.
We are getting a large amount of requests for body worn camera. We have 2 people that do it. There's software that we got to utilize to redact. There's specific state laws, Chad said. There's a lot of exemptions to what we can and cannot release. And it is extremely time consuming that we do use 2 staff members to do it. And she can tell you how many requests we get in the police department.
Yeah.
So she gets the request and she forwards them to you?
It's kind of a hybrid. She gets some, and then we get a lot directly to us.
And it's only increased every year I've been here. And the last year for the police department has been a lot.
I have 3 civilians and 2 sworn members that spend a large amount of time on public records requests.
Curious about the sources of the request.
Well, attorneys take up a large chunk of that. Reporters take up the next large chunk.
Really?
Like the manager said, the one-offs are very easy to do. Someone calls and asks for a police report, we can generally turn that around quickly. It's the body-worn camera. State law changed last year on accidents. There's a lot of exemptions on who can get the accidents and the information now. They got to fill out sworn affidavits. So a lot of times they make the request, and we got to get back to them and say, you need to fill this out. But we do spend a lot of time filling requests.
I didn't think about the discovery requests that would be made.
And that doesn't include discovery.
No?
No. Discovery is, our officers handle that. Luckily, there's a great relationship with the state attorney's office. They have the same evidence software that we utilize with our body-worn camera. So we're able to dump a lot of our information into their portal, which saves us a lot of time. But the officers handle that portion on their own.
And I just want to add that we as a village, we have an obligation to protect confidential information or information that's exempt. So, it's not like a request comes in. A lot of times, either it's Jocelyn, myself, the chief, Juan, there's protected information to go. There's, I don't know how many exemptions under Florida law. There are hundreds of them. Then you have federal law, a lot with the fire department, with HIPAA. So there are all, different reviews that go through to make sure that, we follow the law.
But to answer your question, we are charging. I had a requester out of California, just to give you an example, that was every Monday sending me 8 to 10 body-worn camera requests. I sent them an email, and we were filling it for about a month and a half. I sent them an email. I said, I'm going to require 50% deposit in the future until we can start doing this, because it was taking a significant amount of time. And it's just, a lot of these YouTube videos are putting it out there, and it is time consuming. But we do work closely with the clerk, and Chad and his staff here for me quite a bit.
I'm good.
Okay, so that covers those two.
Would you think we should maybe just discuss briefly the request for the Disability and Inclusion Coordinator?
Sure, let's discuss it.
Let me, if you don't mind, give my little spiel here.
Not at all.
I just want to clarify that what is being requested is not ADA. We are ADA compliant. So this is a much broader interdepartmental kind of issue. And it's not just for the disabled, it could also include elderly and other people with needs. And it's also not just for a point person to receive complaints. It's a coordinator to help resolve needs that are resolved across departments. The example of the beach access is an interesting one because, like Ceci Sanchez said a few meetings ago, what happened? We had a chair, we bought it, and we donated it, and it disappeared. Well, that was years ago. And then somehow this issue came up, I think, because the advisory board brought it up, and then someone decided that they're going to buy a chair. We don't even know the research that went into it. And now, is there access on the beach? That was a question. That's for Public Works to provide. Who's making all these pieces fit together? If you have, maybe the chair is sand accessible without a path. But for the most part, I think municipalities with beaches do have some kind of pathway that makes them more accessible. So we need someone to coordinate that these amenities that we have are accessible to everybody. And the beach is just one issue. Another issue or example would be 4th of July parade. We have people with disabilities who wanted to get some, not priority seating, but some ability to be seated. And they were told, no, we could do that. We just need someone in a position to facilitate that across the board, to someone who knows who to call and make things happen. We also need this person to train our staff because we have people, especially in the rec center, coming in and coming into the clerk's office and permitting who have disabilities. They may be physical, they may be psychological, whatever. And our staff needs to be sensitive to how to know how to respond to these people and to recognize people with these issues to help them. You know, people sometimes with disabilities, and I'm not particularly knowledgeable about this, but people could be frustrated. They could appear to be angry, and they're not angry, but they could appear to be offensive, and the people on the other receiving side of that don't recognize what's really happening. And I think we have to have our staff trained, and our new employees need to be brought up to snuff, and we have to have ongoing training. And the other component of this is we do have a wonderful set of programs for people with disabilities. But they're over here. They're like the other people. And then there's all the rest of our programs. And I understand that it's hard to integrate everything. But there are many opportunities to integrate and have all of us participating together. We are one community, and we need to foster that. We've been a leader on so many other forefronts, and this is a very important one. And we have many people with disabilities who we don't even know about because they either feel stigmatized and can't come out or are too frustrated to ask for help. And I think if we provide a point person who can help us help these people, they will come out, they will participate, and I think we as a community have an obligation to provide someone.
So you would support a position overall?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me
And,
ask you.
and not in the rec park and recs department.
Right.
And one other thing, just, there's a chart that Steve gave, and I brought it out, of course, I don't know where it is, and it showed like the council and, the advisory board that's adjacent to the council and the rec center, and then it showed the coordinator kind of under the manager and the rec center. The issue with the coordinator is this is not just to coordinate projects. This needs to be someone with some training and background in this area. So,
You know, even some people that don't say anything, they walk through different terrain and they're suffer through, they have this whole program, I think in Spain, I don't know, where they look at these things and they study different textures of pavement and how it affects people. I don't know. I mean, ADA is such a wide subject.
and it's a minimum standard. It's
Right.
not the gold standard, it's the minimum standard.
I'm wondering if there is any federal funding to support a position like this, Steve. I don't know if there is. I'm wondering if we could check.
We could check.
So my
Before the
request and my motion is that we create funding for this, carve out somewhere from this existing budget, so that there's no impact on the millage. That we simply create it, but don't hire anybody. We have some time to nail down the scope and the description and the qualifications of this person, that comes back to council, the council then approves that, and then we go get that person. Because I think
But doesn't the county already have that? I think they have an ADA coordinator.
it's not just ADA. We're ADA compliant
No,
already.
yes, I know, but so we're already compliant. It's maintaining compliance, retaining compliance, right?
And coordinating across the
Coordinating with all the
departments.
different
Yeah.
agencies. I think that's the role, we have to check, but I think that's what the county may have. They get involved in different departments, so I don't know, I mean, do they have a job?
It's a little bit different.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
To what Nancy's suggesting, because you're suggesting that they work with all the departments, and I think at the county, it's very rigid. It's ADA, and making sure that the wheelchair ramps are
The
where
right
they're
angle,
supposed to.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And making sure that if you open a new facility, that they have all the ramps in the right place. And I think she's suggesting something a little bit
Broader, much broader than that. There are people who want to participate in programs that are not for disabled people. And sometimes you can make that work and you can accommodate that. And Steve and I, in our conversations, Steve has said, someone has a problem, they can call Public Works, or they can call me. It's too hard of a life to figure out who you have to call when you're in that situation. And the advisory board is not the answer, because they don't even have the capacity to address these issues. They can only advise us. So I think it would be
Okay, so we have a little bit of a motion, but we don't have a number. We don't have the what's behind it. Do we is this, you were pretty emphatic that you don't want them in parks, but who would this person report to then?
I think they have to be part of the administration. I don't know if it would be under human resources. Human resources is where ADA complaints are supposed to go. So that to me would make sense. In terms of a salary amount, I don't know if Juan or Steve could suggest a number. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Okay.
a ballpark number. For a full-time position, because no one's going to take that position as a part-time position. And I think it's not just for the disabled. I think it should be more, the title should be more something like facilities, coordinator or something, because it could be include the elderly, and I don't think we should nail it down so much that we're stuck with a position that over time we find may be described a little bit differently, and
What I'm hearing is somebody in the nature of an ombudsman with a kind of a specific but comprehensive focus on the fullest possible participation in everything that's part of this community for people that may need a little bit of extra support, extra help, extra advice.
and I agree with you, except ombudsman to me sounds like complaint.
No, an advocate, the person with the vision and the focus to see what needs to be done.
And to train and to provide training.
Did your group come up, look at other cities, and is there a comparable position? Does it have a name? Does it?
They have, and it's unfortunate that they didn't bring that up tonight. Coral Gables has someone, but it's in their Parks and Rec department, and that's not what they're talking about. I can get that information. That's why I'm saying right now, I'm suggesting that we save the slot, put an amount that would be a relatively reasonable salary, and refine this more before we move forward.
Can you
with anything.
do that before by the next meeting, so that we could then take another look at it with some real numbers?
I could, but I would like to make a few comments, though. And obviously, the council member and I have had quite a bit of conversation on this. To be honest, I didn't know we had an issue till about 3 weeks ago, which surprised me that, this now turns into a request for a position. I would like to be able to try to do it, as I presented to you all, with the staff we have. We do have very qualified staff.
What makes them qualified, Steve? We don't have anybody trained.
Well, when I say qualified, good people who
Oh, we have plenty of good people.
who could do things like this. I even just in the conversation we're having here, it sounds like it's ADA, then it sounds like it's not ADA, then it sounds like I'm still.
It's an ADA czar.
I'm trying to figure out what the job is, and I guess even sitting down with the ladies on the board, I'm still trying to grasp my arms around what exactly they are. And please don't take this as any way that I don't empathize with people who have disabilities. I completely feel for them, and I think we've done a very good job inside of our Parks Department. If they believe that it's something bigger, then I'd like them to come talk to me and be able to explain it to me. I'm still trying to grasp exactly what they're looking for. I guess so the mayor asked me if I can do it. I said, I can't do it until I really understand what they need. I mean, I can.
We've come and talked to you. They've come, I've come, and
but
for some reason you don't grasp the interdepartmental coordination part of it.
Well,
and no one's
but
accusing
I do.
anyone of not
But I
doing
have
a
a
good
chief of
job,
staff.
but
I have
it's
a chief
not
of staff,
just
though.
programming. It's
I have a
not
chief
just-
of staff, and she works very interdepartmental. We have people who do those jobs, and the fact that I've only met with these people twice, they're making assumptions about how the organization runs without really asking how the organization runs. And so that's what I ask. I've 3 times I've heard, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and I said, well, what is this and that? And he said, well, we have to do ADA stuff.
That's not what they've said, that's not ADA stuff.
Okay.
And
but-
they've been relegated, and as I came on as liaison, I learned this. I didn't realize it because they'd already established a history that their understanding was that their liaison, their staff liaison, was Parks and Rec. So they thought they had to go to Parks and Rec.
No, but every board
Which
is
is
supposed
what
to
they
report to
did.
the council.
But they didn't. But
Why did they think that?
that's what they were presented with. I don't know, but right.
But
So
you've
that's what.
identified that.
But
We
that's
can-
not
we
what
can
they're
adjust
doing now. Now what they're doing is saying this is what we figured out is an issue. So we're not going to Parks and Rec. We're coming to you, the council, and we're advising you that this is a need we have. So, I mean, I don't think we can
Nancy-
blame it on them or
No,
say
no.
that they're
So
being
I've had-
unreasonable. They're trying to
No,
articulate it.
So I've had some conversations about very poignant, very specific things that can be done to immediately affect and enhance the experience of people that have unique abilities or special needs. When I've spoken to these people, I said, "Great, that sounds great." In fact, that sounds like the prudent step to get those things done, to start identifying what truly is needed by the community, instead of really spending that money on a chief, this person that's going to take some time to go figure that out and then tell us the same thing. I think there's an opportunity for our staff. We should give the opportunity to the staff to see if we can do that. We don't even know if we can.
You know, and
In my opinion,
I'm beating a dead horse, but this is not the first time this issue came. This might be the first time the issue came up with this manager. But as Mike Davies said, this issue has come up before, and it's morphed and it kind of dies because of whatever reason it doesn't get traction.
Right.
And so this
Nancy, would you
is
consider
this is
bringing
the
somebody in
time
from outside?
to make the move. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Are you talking?
Yeah, I'm sorry, would you consider maybe doing an audit by some outside person, outside professional organization, come in, look at our situation, make recommendations, and then if they agree that we should hire somebody, we should move forward with that hire. But I
Hire
think
or
doing
train
an
someone we have.
external audit would be useful.
Okay, training someone we have, this would take someone with an educational background that could handle this. In terms of an audit, no, I don't know, an audit, what's wrong with an audit? But we're doing budget now, and so my request is that we put aside some money so that if the auditor says, you need this, you have people you can serve, that we can not have to wait another year to do this. That's what I'm
okay with that.
And the other thing is there are people who are just in the shadows. It takes time for them to see that they can participate and be included and be facilitated and have a point person to go to. So
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It had a second, I assume?
There's not a second, but may I clarify the motion? I'm sorry, Councilmember. To create funding from this budget for an ADA coordinator and provide training and also funding for an audit?
It's not ADA coordinator, but
Not,
a facilities coordinator, a participation coordinator, but it's not an ADA coordinator. We can refine the title later.
Yeah, I mean, instead of getting
position.
caught in semantics, when we just call it, can we call it ADA to be defined later?
I wouldn't call it ADA.
It's definitely not ADA.
No.
Well, I don't know.
That's a whole bunch of federal laws that's not what we're talking about.
so
It's a resident participation coordinator. I mean, that's the most generic thing I can come up with.
Resident support specialist?
Yeah. Resident support.
It's difficult to
Yeah. Resident
articulate.
I think some of us are grappling with what this is about. We can't quite name it.
This is why it's difficult to make a motion, I guess. I don't know.
It seems maybe that we have enough in the roll forward by a lot, considering some of the CIP that's not going to be proceeding. I'm not sure that this is going to be hard to find money for this slot, but defining what this role is.
that's the bigger problem. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that you said that I think is a good illustration of presumably easy fruit to pluck, but something that was missed was the seating at the parade. If you don't think about that and you don't anticipate the probable need that would arise, you're not going to deal with it.
So I guess in that case, I would look to the advisory board to let us know that that's a need, and then we can help in that. And that's where I see the board being very helpful.
That means
Because
the
when I
board
speak
has
to the
come to
board,
the council every time they've got something, and the council's gotta go to the Fourth of July committee,
don't-
this one, that one,
I don't know if that
logistically, that
necessarily,
doesn't make any
I don't know
sense.
if that necessarily would happen that way. I'm not sure. There's a liaison.
Okay, but wait,
I mean, I don't
you're,
know.
you're talking about a very specific issue.
Because it came up as an example.
Wait. And it is the role of the advisory committee to look at that and then through you, come to us and say, you know, we need another $5,000.
We need a mat, we need a
the-
wheelchair, we need a special
Right.
place for the for 4th of July, we need this, we need that, and then
But that's separate than what she's talking about, which
Right.
is a more defined, more coordinated, more everything position that we're still trying to work out what the details are.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's absolutely no harm in looking at this and having the manager come back and give us a little bit more description, more detail. And I agree with Nancy and Frank that, we can push back something here if need be to allocate those funds. What are we gonna give up? And then, we can all make a decision as to, hey, this need is more valuable than that need, and everyone can come to that decision point.
I think this can be accomplished without touching the millage.
Yes. For sure, no.
And by the way, Michelle asked for a little bit more on the 4th of July. I feel the same could be done with that.
Correct.
So
this is the motion before us.
Want me to
And
clarify the
What is it?
motion? We need to clarify it.
Just for the minutes,
Right.
because keeps
It's
changing a
to
little.
establish, what did we say? What did you come up with? That was good.
Resident support specialist.
A resident support specialist position. That the manager work with the advisory board to better define the qualifications and the scope for that position. And come back to council.
Also,
Do we want to do the
the
audit?
actual need for that position.
Right.
Because the proposition that the manager has communicated is that there is a need, but addressing that need could be fulfilled otherwise.
Yeah, and my only problem with that is that we don't have anybody who can train staff. Maybe we can hire out to do that. Maybe we can
Yeah.
find someone
We
to
can
come in.
outsource that.
But that's
Is that
that's
then,
critical.
does that take us back to Mike's idea about an audit? To have somebody
Yeah,
come in
I'm
and
not
tell
really
us?
sure what he means about an audit, because I certainly don't want to have someone come in and do an ADA audit of our
No.
community. That's not.
Maybe collect all our ideas and define what this role looks like and what it is.
I think Mike was, sorry, Councilmember Brack was referring to a needs analysis. I think that's kind of.
Yeah.
And who would do that?
Oh, we could get someone from another municipality to do that, someone who has, and that would be something the board might be able to find out who does it well.
Okay.
And then I'm sure Todd also, wherever you are, knows people who do it well. Coral Gables has been brought up a couple times tonight. We have a very good relationship with them, so maybe that we can ask them as well.
So do we need to tonight have the motion be that we are going to appropriate funds somehow from the existing budget to do a needs analysis?
But it needs him to figure out, is it, 25,000, is it 75, and then suggest it to us, and
Okay,
we can,
okay.
we can vote it up and down.
Okay, so we don't need a motion for this? Or we do
I
need a
think,
motion for this?
I think we had a motion on the floor, and I think there's consensus of council also, so, for the manager to bring that back.
Consensus of council.
Yeah, and for the manager to bring it back, and that you are, looking over his shoulder as to, what that is, and then we'll deal with it
Okay.
on second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Manager, in terms of the millage, can we squeeze some more out of it? Is it 2.9? Why can't it be 2.8, 2.85, or?
Now you're asking me to give you more and take some away. You're
Yes,
making it hard on
indeed.
me, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
That's what you do.
So, right now I hear that you want me to take from what we have is to create this position. So that's step one, I understand, from your motion. If you choose us to go further, is there any guidance on that, or is it just do magic? I mean, I prefer a little more specificity than magic.
Two quick things I wanted to add, maybe hopefully it can help on that. Number one, perhaps look for, as I mentioned before, maybe federal funding, because I'm not saying it's an ADA position, but it does have an ADA component. But perhaps that could help offset. And also I was talking
You realize
earlier.
that grants take a while. So
Yeah.
that may be. Yeah.
But we still have to formulate it and.
But yeah, we would without a doubt do that if that's something.
Yeah, well, it's just maybe, just a thought. And the other one is re-looking at the priorities and seeing if we need the whole 4 million this year, or if we could just do with a little less, because it just seems like, look, you guys are doing a fantastic job. Nobody's questioning that you guys are fully committed to doing everything right. But the question is, are we biting more than we can chew? And that's a little bit of reflection internally. I would challenge the administration to take a look at this again, give it another sweep, and seeing if we can just cut a little bit out of the general funding, and maybe come back with that. What's council's thoughts on
And
that?
looking also not just at the proposed new initiatives, but looking at that in conjunction with the roll forward.
Yeah.
Because that's where I
Well,
think
we're gonna
there's-
have that breakout, so maybe
Right.
we'll have some
Right.
some wiggle room there.
Nobody's gonna get hurt here if you guys come up with less projects.
Well, I hear that. I hear what you're looking for, but we've been working with this for 6 months.
you
So
have.
tell me which ones you think that we don't
Well,
need. That would be more helpful than.
I'd like to know about the encumbered funds.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll provide that to you.
I
think we did shrink this down relatively. I mean, this was a much longer list, and I would be.
I don't see anything in the new initiatives that is unworthy.
Correct.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm thinking there's not a whole lot that we would really want to pull out of this.
So, but
Well,
I'm not saying it's unworthy. Let me just explain. I'm not saying it's unworthy. I'm
that's
just
what
saying,
Frank
can
just
we
said.
do it all this year?
Well, no,
That's all I'm just
that's,
saying.
that's where the opportunity lies, because in the CIP, we're not gonna do everything this year. And this is gonna spill into the CIP, and some of it will happen, and some of it will carry.
Nine of these are purchases though, and some are purchases, and some are additional funding to existing projects as well.
On the improve Crandon Boulevard crosswalk safety, you have safe streets. Is that the crosswalk? What is that? Because that's not about my issue that I've been complaining about.
No, it's been a long-term goal of ours to address street signaling, to address crosswalks, to address.
That it is my
lights.
issue.
No, it's been an issue
I'm
for
just
ours.
saying. No, I'm just saying that
it's
been an issue
it
when you brought it.
includes.
It's been an issue
it
for a long
includes that,
time.
Right.
Yes, yes. And again, that's something, as you know, we take, Public Works sometimes takes, and I'm talking DTBW, not my Public Works guys, sometimes takes a long time, and we're still working with them. And, I want to make sure there's money there as we move forward to make some improvements.
We don't need any new police vehicles, so. Or radios. Mr. Mayor, when you talked about the equipment at the gym, that's hardly gonna move the needle one way or the other.
And we need
And
that
it does get used all the time.
And Mayor Roscoe made a commitment tonight to start weightlifting, so.
Yes. I heard it. And then that's also another example of when we mentioned that's also in addition to existing money. So we already have 150 million, that's a lot of weights. 150,000 already in the budget from last year, and that would be the addition for a total cost of 200,000.
Just for the gym?
For the equipment, yes.
Ooh.
Say that again?
So if you go down,
There's already 150.
so it's around 3/4 of the way down. replace fitness equipment in gym, 150 roll forward, 50 general fund. Addition, so that is in addition to an existing 150 for a purchase.
Second, number 5.
Just a thought about sequencing. In the out year CIP, we've got a whole lot of road improvement. This year's new project includes the crosswalk. I don't know exactly what's contemplated for the crosswalk,
I don't know.
but there's a whole lot of road stuff happening the year after next.
Right.
I don't know whether there's a condition that's perceived to be uncomfortable or dangerous or.
I'm not sure I'm getting the
Crosswalk.
question. For
For this
Granite Boulevard
year's-
crosswalk?
For this coming year, as opposed to the overall road improvements that conceivably could include crosswalk when
Right.
they all happen in concert.
We could, if that's something we want to do. We could push that back to another year.
I mean, I
I'm
don't.
not sure what we're pushing back, but the
Yeah.
crosswalk safety issue is a big issue, so I'm not.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding what
Maybe
Councilman.
We're so, okay, we had a bad condition on Crandon. The crosswalks, I think, have improved that condition. The lighting is probably necessary, even though we debated that for a pretty long time. I don't know what's going on Harbor Drive that leads to this item in the new projects.
Right.
But I observed that there's a lot of road improvements that could conceivably include crosswalk if this isn't something, urgent safety need or something like that.
Okay, normally the roads are primarily for our roads, Crandon Boulevard obviously being a county road. And as we move forward and ever so slowly, Chris, whenever we get with Public Works, whatever that solution might be, we want to make sure that we have the funding in order to support what county Public Works wants to do. So we've kind of set that money separately versus road work, most of which will just be milling and resurfacing. We also, I think we have funding in this year's budget, Chris, you can tell them that for traffic calming as well.
Yes. The milling and surfacing is this year, that's happening, right, on Harbor?
We've got money in current year, yes.
Yes.
But we should be kicking off very soon, and then we have money in this budget for next year as well.
And for Harbor, we have TPO funding or JPA actually funding for Harbor Drive. So that's separate funds. But it sounds to me like you're mixing the crosswalks, which are, excuse me, Crandon Boulevard, which are not under our jurisdiction necessarily of the county, but we're setting aside funds to help if we need to help get those improved with the roadway projects, which are separate and apart because they're village roads.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm
Okay.
looking at the Harbor Drive. I'm focused on Harbor Drive, and I think there was a crosswalk. Where is that?
I believe the one that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's
Stoner's
Crandon.
talking about is the one that's a new initiative for 120,000.
Yeah, that's right, it's
And
Crandon.
that was primarily focused on Crandon Boulevard.
Yeah.
Now, again, perfect world is that we get Public Works to pay for this.
Mhm.
We may not get that solution, because we may want to do something different than what they propose. And that's what that money is there for.
Yeah. That's not a helpful observation for me. Okay. I don't think that whole conversation was useful.
Sometimes it happens.
On the program management, so you had rolling over 170,000. Is the need greater than
Unlock your iPhone first.
All righty. Okay. Why?
Ask Siri to do something.
Is that, why isn't that the 850 minus the 170?
So there's two parts of that. One, again, as you know, we're setting the conditions for a decision that will be made, we believe sometime in this fiscal year, which is why we have the 20 million of SRF. We've got everything set if we choose to go to Zone 1. That 850 would be part of that program management to oversee that as owner's rep. The other 170 is existing money, but when you heard earlier that Colleen mentioned about being able to have project managers oversee some of the projects to get done, that's what we would use that money for. If that makes sense.
I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right line item, but I think you had said that that money was Black and Veatch, and that was for them for management of other projects, not just REAP.
No, the only thing there are program managers are for a resilient infrastructure program. That's it. But the 170 is what we would use for other 170 plus or minus. We still haven't received Black and Veatch's work order yet, have we? Work order request yet.
Where is that on here?
Which one?
The construction management.
It is program and project management. Fourth one down.
Oh, there it is, okay. But I thought there was some rollover.
Yeah.
There is,
yeah,
if you go to
that's
the
that
capital plan.
170 that I was talking
Right.
about.
Okay,
Right there.
there it is,
Two.
there it is, right. Yeah, I thought you had said that that involved construction management for other projects, not just REAP.
It does. That's what that 170 would do. So
Okay.
we would take that to
Okay.
provide project management for other projects.
On the renovate building department, why is there 56,225 under general fund?
So once we got the final cost estimate in, we had to do the calculation about how much was part of the building department and what was not considered part of the building department. We can use building funds for that which is building department, but the part that isn't has to be funded by general fund. And so once we did the recalculation, once the cost estimate came in, the part we're going to upgrade in Public Works is an additional $56,000.
Because the space is co-shared. So we're paying,
Does that include acquiring the software to do everything by internet? That 444?
Now that's just the renovation. We already have the software that does it.
Okay.
Where are we with the council chamber renovation?
Looking.
Jeremy.
they're,
Well, you can look around. You got
Jeremy's coming in?
a new screen right there. You got lights there. Jeremy's here. Go ahead. Why don't you explain it?
there you go.
We're close. The best thing I can tell you about the project is you haven't noticed how much progress they've made. All of the emergency egress lighting is installed. It's the new molding that you see here.
Oh, good. That's cool.
That's what's going to enable it to function. We have the screen overhead. The wiring is in place. These lights are new. So we're getting quite close. We've got speakers, center channel, and the two side channels. We've got additional speakers up there. So it's pretty great that nobody's noticed how much progress we've made on this.
Jeremy, I've asked this before, but maybe the answer has changed. Can we use those speakers during council meetings? Because now there are speakers behind.
This is set up for the theater system because it goes through a mixer that's in there. I'd have to coordinate it with IT, but it's really, as of now, it's very much a separate system.
I hope we can get.
We already have speakers for this system in the back, though.
I want to see this as Spinal Tap 2.
This Spinal Tap 2 here.
Yeah.
As a new release, that's programming. I'll have to talk to Todd about
Talk to Todd.
So we anticipate that we should have a ribbon cutting / movie in mid-October. We're going to meet sometime next week, do a walkthrough, I believe. And then if there's a little bit of money, we hope there will be money left over from what they had to spend, and we're going to look at possibly doing a paint job, maybe clean up the foyer out front, do a little work in the back. Depends on how much money we have left over and where it goes from there.
What's the movie?
Well, we're going to let the film festival pick that movie.
Okay.
And we're hoping it's an exciting one. It's not just about water.
Spinal Tap 2.
Spinal Tap.
Water's exciting.
No, there was a joke there. They had 5 movies in a row about water. They actually made fun of themselves. They said maybe we should have picked more than water. inside joke with the film festival.
So it'll be ready,
You're good.
it'll be ready for the film festival.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll definitely be ready for the film festival. Yeah, we're gonna have a kickoff meeting in October, and we're working with them.
Yeah, we
We
can't
just
miss
have to
this.
pick the right date, the right time,
We can't miss the second opportunity.
and
Okay.
This is off the subject, but speaking of movies, any way they could put the movie that they did today on the
I was thinking that too.
on for us to see, because that was so moving.
sure. We could even put it on the website. I would imagine.
It was a very
Put
moving.
Dan Feeney's face on it. And,
Yeah.
oh, Dan.
You want people to see it, don't you?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I think yes, we can share it. We can also put it on the website too.
Okay.
Good story.
Okay, Mr. Manager, do you have the marching orders?
I've got the marching orders. I think I've got 2.
Do more with less?
Yes. Job scope. Yeah.
Yep.
Won't spend any more money.
And suggest which ones we could, which projects we could put aside to, if we want to go that route.
We won't know about the community center sewer system by second reading, I presume.
What do you mean?
Colleen, I think, made a point that there is a point of feasibility, go, no-go decision on whether.
We won't, we have to do, they have to investigate first whether it's even feasible to be able to do it, even possible, not feasible, possible. And then we're gonna survey the actual lines on either side, Fernwood and up front here, as to where the slopes are and see if we can get the sewers connected. So we're probably a couple months out before we even have that answer.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the last property on the key?
We have to
No,
double check
it's
that.
connected to sewer. It has a grinder pump station right now. But it's not an efficient system, so the grinder pump station overflows, it creates a
I see.
spill.
So how you
So
gonna
we're
get
trying
that
to get
into
it
the
off of
main
that grinder
system?
pump. I'm sorry?
How you gonna get that by gravity?
That's why we're
That's
trying
why
to figure
we're
out the
looking at the
elevation of that
elevations on-
connection, yeah.
Correct, on both sides. To see if the gravity sewer slopes work. And we can get the line under the building, because it's underneath in the parking garage.
It needs to be done.
So
Can we
it's a
do it
misnomer
that
to
cost?
say that it isn't connected to the sewer system.
It's connected.
It is.
It's
Yeah,
connected
I
to a
mean-
grinder station that lifts it.
No, I know, but we
Yeah.
shouldn't be telling people that the thing isn't connected to the sewer system.
There, we can
No,
rename it.
no. It's
He's
connected.
saying the name is misleading, which
Yeah,
is.
completely.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can rename it, yeah.
Yeah.
We're having trouble
People
naming
look at you
things
like,
tonight.
what do you mean it ain't connected?
It is, yeah, it is
It
misleading.
is connected.
That's our challenge tonight.
It's just,
All right, I think that we've been at it since very early this morning, and the brain is starting to die out here. Any other wishes or recommendations, Mike? Anything you want to add or to have the manager look at?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else up here?
We mentioned try to squeeze a little bit for the 4th of July.
Yep. Yes.
What was it, 6K, I think?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, if that's
That's-
good with the council, I'm good with that.
Me too.
If that's something that.
Consensus of council.
Yes.
In the installation of fiber and all that, is that something that you're looking at?
Well, you mean for the security cameras?
Yes, and
The fiber is there. We're going to run off of an existing vendor's existing fiber, hot wire, and then we're going to provide additional cameras. So 2 things will have to happen. Obviously, we'll have to install the camera, and then we'll have to pay we'll have to pay the connection fees to the fiber, and then we'll have to pay the service fees to use their fiber.
I was thinking in terms of sometimes we have events over in the second floor of the community center, whether or not we can, hold a meeting there and have it, come through the TV and all that stuff. Is that something that
Okay.
we can include while we're doing this fiber, or?
Those are 2 different networks, but if I hear your understanding is like talking
The
about
lighthouse
the
room.
lighthouse room and
Yeah.
tying it into the greater projection, similar to what we do here.
Yeah.
That is possible. We have talked about it before. I don't know if Alex, I know we're part way there. Are we all the way there? Or do you need to tell me what it takes to get there?
Good evening. So we're working with Hotwire on doing the fiber layout.
No,
and
what
to
he's
utilize-
asking for is connecting.
Right, but what I'm saying is with that fiber connection, we can have Hotwire also give us connectivity from building to building.
So we can do that.
We can do that, yes.
Is there anything else you need to do in that room in order to make it compatible with our system that we project out of here?
All we would do is bring the connectivity from our portable system that we set up through our broadcast and then broadcast out.
So let us do the research on the Mr. Mayor. I understand what you're looking for, and we'll put a cost estimate on there.
Does it make any sense to anticipate including that capability with the new library?
The new library is not going to be done for a while, so why don't we wait until that comes? And I would imagine the technology on that's going to be pretty advanced. Hot wires run right by that, so I would imagine they'll be tied into it, and so we may be able to just pull it right off the net itself.
Okay.
But just for everyone's awareness, there the bid opening for the library is on the 25th of September, so 2 weeks from now.
Cool.
So they'll begin the selection process.
Okay.
Go to the order. Anything else?
Yes, excuse me. You need to have a public hearing for
Oh,
the
yes.
budget
I'm
ordinance.
sorry.
You're
Public
opening
hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed.
So
And you need to
there'd be a
table-
motion to table the budget. So then you go back to the millage.
May I have a motion to table the budget?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to untable the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So, before you vote on the millage, let me just read, I know we haven't changed the millage or the budget amount, but let me just read what we're required to read under state law, that the rollback rate is 2.77 for 2 mills, and the proposed millage is 2.901 mills, which is 0.1277 or 4.60% over the rollback rate. So what's in order next would be a motion to approve the millage as presented.
Was there a public hearing on the millage?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct, Madam Clerk, we should open it up.
Public hearing is now open on the millage. See no one come forward, the public hearing is now closed.
Move to adopt the millage as proposed.
Discussion, obviously, there's no problem in bringing it further down if we want to go that direction.
That's correct.
No, it
Just can't go above.
Can't go up. Okay. Everybody is clear.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to untable the budget ordinance?
Move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then the budget ordinance.
Yeah, motion to approve the budget ordinance.
Motion to approve the budget.
Second.
All those in, I have to, excuse me, Councilmember Kaplan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is approved on first reading.
Move to adjourn?
Move to
Second.
adjourn.
Moved in second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.